And we are live. Welcome, Kevin.
How you doing, Christy?
I am doing good. Just hanging out.
It's been a whole week. Oh my goodness.
I know, huh? So we just, just the days go by. It's like yesterday. Like yesterday went by so fast.
My Saturdays are already spent up in the hills.
Yeah, lucky you.
It's one day a week that I can actually manage to get out there. So I purposely schedule things around that. That is like my most important issue on every week. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, don't schedule nothing for Saturday. Don't schedule nothing for Saturday.
Exactly. So
I really do work around that, and
that's cool. Well, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
But let's see who's all in the chat room. I see World Bigfoot Radio. Hello,
Hi.
Duke.
How you doing, Duke? How you doing, buddy? We got Pappy Two Bears.
Gordo.
Gordo's in the house.
We got Blue-Eyed Northerner. Hello, Pat. Pat said hello to you, William.
Hello. How you doing? Chris Jarvis, glad to see you.
Hey!
He's made a couple comments on the last videos, I think.
We got Mara. Mara, is that how you say your name? That's really pretty. And of course, we got Lewis. Thank God. Hello, Lewis. We miss you. We love you.
Yes,
we want you back.
Yes. We also got Max Powers.
Yeah.
He's been on the podcast. Good friend of ours.
Big Rob. Big Rob. Poof. We got who else we got in here? We got Johnny Half. How you doing, Johnny? I am Pam. What's up, Pam?
I am Pam.
We got Carol Ricker. How you doing? Hold on.
What's going, everybody?
Bama. What's up? We got. I'm trying to get through these people. We got whole Squatchaholic.
Big Rob. How you doing, buddy?
Squatchaholic. What's up, Squatchaholic?
That's our wonderful moderator doing her job absolutely wonderfully. So thank you very much. We appreciate your cooperation and all of your moderation skills.
And we got Sharon Guy. That's my friend down here. Me and her are going to get together real soon.
Right on.
Back
I hope
good.
You video it and get some videos on channel.
Yes, I will. I will do that.
Absolutely. Document the entire, because, the forest people take differently to women as they do men.
Yes.
That's a natural fact.
Look who came in, Belle. I ain't seen you in a while, Belle. What's up? And then we got Mo.
Who's that, Belle Prepper?
Yeah, Belle. She's been going in action. Where you been, girl?
What is going on, Bill? Glad to have you here.
Okay, so everybody, we would like to introduce. We got William Lunsford.
Well, before we get there, before we get to William, I have a huge thank you to give. So,
okay,
I got home yesterday from being out with my group, and I get a text from somebody who says, "Hey, did you get a package today?" And I said, "No." And I'm kind of scratching my head going, I haven't ordered anything in a long time. What's going on? What are you doing? And then about 15 minutes later, my daughter comes up and says, "Hey, Kevin got a package." Okay. Well, go out there and I get it, and I'm going, what the heck is going on here? And for a lot of you in the chat, for some of you who don't know, who don't keep up with my videos or whatever, but I have been having serious tripod issues lately. I buy these cheap $5-10 tripods, and they're a gamble. One of them lasted me a month. Another one lasted me literally one trip. And I've been relying on this this selfie stick here. the selfie stick. And as you all know, well, selfie sticks don't stand up, and you can't bend them around branches. And I've been meaning to get online and order myself a new tripod. I haven't had the means to lately. I opened up this package yesterday, and my jaw just dropped. In this package was this awesome, beautiful, flexible leg tripod, $high professional grade cell phone tripod, and I have to say, thank you, Lewis. This means a lot to me. Thank you, because dealing with that selfie stick was an absolute frustration. North County Bigfoot, Lewis heard me complaining that my tripod broke while out in the field, and bought me a professional grade $1 cell phone tripod.
That's cool. That's awesome.
He's a real friend.
Yeah.
He's a real friend. I didn't ask him to do it. I didn't expect him to do it. He just took it upon himself, and it showed up at my house. And
that's awesome. Lewis, you're a good dude.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's just a cell phone tripod, but it means a lot to me.
Yep.
It's more than just a cell phone tripod. He says
no problem.
And thank you, Lewis, from the deepest of my heart. Thank you. You're a real friend, and I'm glad to call you my friend. And you need to get your butt back on here.
Yes, he does.
Get your butt back on here with us. So
now we got William Lunsford in the house.
Yeah. Oh, he's becoming a household name.
Yeah, well, I met him in Falk when we had went up there and did our expedition.
Well, that whole area is his stomping ground. So he is, and he's been doing it for a very long time in that area.
Yes.
So if there is any expert, I put that in parentheses because there's not really any experts, but any expert for this area.
The Boggy Creek Monster.
It is going to be William Lunsford. Absolutely.
Yes.
If I were to go investigating this area, I would contact William Lunsford and be like, look, what's going on?
Yes.
Thank you for nice words. There aren't any experts that we know, but I appreciate you saying that for sure.
It's a fact. It's a fact. I mean, you've been doing this in that area since what, 77?
1977.
I'm 42 years old. You've been doing it a year before I was even born.
Yeah, I feel it too, buddy. I guarantee you. But it's been 43 of the coolest years that I've ever expected to experience. So and I want to give thanks too for everybody that came over from Duke's podcast that he and I had a while ago to come to Christie's. Everybody that took the time out to actually come and just listen to me, because they're just listening to an old redneck who just lucky enough to have some sightings that Bigfoot had a whole lot more to do with than what I did. But I appreciate you all being here very, very much. My whole purpose is to share what I know and to hopefully have everybody who wants to go from being a believer to a knower. And then, like I said, that's what I really enjoy. I enjoy talking about Bigfoot, and
yeah. I have to agree with you and stuff about that. Because of your experiences and everything you have experienced throughout this time, you're a complete accident.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, blatantly, you're an accident.
Man, that's the honest truth, because I didn't believe in Bigfoot. And the way I got into Bigfoot, like I said, was in 1977, and I was just about to graduate high school. Had bigger plans for my life than sitting there becoming a Bigfoot researcher.
The last thing you've got on your mind, if anything, is Bigfoot.
That's exactly right. And not to be a believer, you know.
You're in high school. You're all wrapped up in girls and hunting and fishing and all that good outdoor stuff that us wonderful rednecks that seem to bail out the country all the time love to do.
That's how it was, you know, getting to spend time in the woods. And that's actually what I was doing. I was actually fishing, and I got to have the quote good fortune of running into the second most famous Bigfoot in the world, the quote Fouke monster, unquote, rather than the Fouke. It's actually a Fouke monster, or
kin of.
That's right, or kin
Fouke monster.
That's exactly right. So I didn't really want to become a researcher, but where I was, I had something within me that said, you've got to know more about this.
And it draws you in. It absolutely draws you in, because after what you see and what you know, you start thinking, well, maybe everyone's wrong.
You know, and that was the thing about
it. Know?
I don't think I would have had the reaction or even become a researcher had it been something I believed in. But it was not anything that I believed in. Like I said, I was raised in a home there where you didn't believe in monsters, you know, you didn't believe in ghosts and all this other stuff like that. You believed in just what you could, you know, lay your hands on, you know, what was tangible. And then, man, all of a sudden you walk up on one of these things, and then he walks out there and looks at you, and you're staring at him, but nothing between you but 45 yards of air. And you realize, man, this is not my comfort zone. I wasn't ready for this. So that's kind of how I got started. After the sighting got through, you know, told a few people, not too many, and got ridiculed. So I shut up. Didn't have any kind of release as far as that goes, or like a support group or anything. You go to the library, it really wasn't that much on Bigfoot.
Right. Times were a lot different back then. I mean, in the way of number of years, it wasn't that far away. But in the way of frame of mind, it was a completely different way of thinking.
Exactly. My first sighting was 10 years after the Patterson-Gimlin film, you know. And the thing that makes that a lot of folks don't realize, and that I didn't realize at the time, you know, I thought the Patterson-Gimlin film was it. I thought that's where it got its start. And since I become a researcher, I've learned that it actually started, the first Bigfoot sighting reported. Now, not reports from the Native Americans or anything else, or like people like Elkanah Walker, you know, who was a researcher going through the Pacific Northwest or anything like that. But as far as anything that was reported through papers or documented was actually in Georgia in 1829. And then the second one was Arkansas, and that was 1834. Well, the thing was, Arkansas didn't become a state until 1836. So that's 2 years before Arkansas became a state. And all of a sudden you're hearing Bigfoot report on that right there. And so everybody thinks they started in the Pacific Northwest with the land bridge. I don't believe that, because had this area been being actually researched more, like what they were trying to find that travel route all the way across the Pacific Northwest, they would have seen a whole lot more Bigfoot, I feel like.
Well, I mean, it even goes back even further than that. If you look into Leif Erikson's accounts.
What, 986?
What was that, 829? Yeah. Something like that, 828 or something like that?
986 is what it was, 986.
986, there you go.
And
he documented what he saw as he landed on land at a particular spot. So, and I think that was on the East Coast, wasn't it? The Northeast coast?
The Northeast of it, yeah, it was. So like it wasn't, not that there's anything wrong with Pacific Northwest, but it wasn't like we think. We're just thinking it's all Washington State and it's all Oregon and it's California.
No, it goes, it's way further in time and on the absolute opposite coast.
Yeah, it is. And so, you know, when you realize that right there, you say, hey, this isn't quite so far-fetched. But at the time, had I known that, I might not have been so surprised. But, you know, knowing that these things, everything else, the earliest I remember about Bigfoot was like Dennis the Menace. I was a kid, I watched Dennis the Menace. Well, back in 1962, I believe it was 62, they did a show called The Creature with the Big Feet. And it was right after Jerry Crew, 1958. You know, they had the deal and they did that show there. And I thought, oh, man, that's just to make California money. Well, anyway, Dennis the Menace was done, I think, about Topeka, Kansas, about some family in Kansas, not in California. I'm like, well, that's kind of strange. That kind of upsets what I believed all this time, you know. So, but anyway, it was something that I did there and started researching. There wasn't that much in our libraries back then. We called them card catalogs. We didn't have computers like this. Computer was a big old thing in somebody's building there that, you know, that they were able to keep up with their banking and everything else. It had all the names in it and had little cards, and it had little tickers in and out of it.
Yeah, I think computers and cell phones with cameras on them have been the two biggest contributions to all of this research.
Well, it really has, because my son is a dentist, and he went to Memphis to dental school, and he was probably my biggest research partner at the time. And I was able to talk to him, find something, send it to Memphis, Tennessee from Texarkana, which is 300 miles, have him send it back to me, you know, and then we were able to talk. And so that really helped a lot, kept him updated on his research, you know, and also kind of sounded things like a very intelligent young man, you know. And so to hear all that right there and have somebody I could run it by without somebody giving me a bunch of grief that surely he did, you know. So that's kind of where it all got started. And man, then the more I researched, I had another sighting in 1985, I believe it was, with my nephew. He was 8 years old and just bought a new boat. Had just started driving at UPS, and so all of a sudden I have a sighting right at just 30 minutes after dark on a boat ramp there that I wasn't expecting. Thing screams at us, takes off, and man, I'm like, get in the truck. And he's like, what is that? I said, just get in the truck. Finally got him in the truck. We drove about a mile, and finally then I tied my boat down, and then when I went to get out to tie the boat, he was, oh, you're not getting out, are you? I said, just stay in the truck. So I realized right then that there's more than one of these things, you know, and if I'm going to continue to do what I like to do, spend time in the woods, and I had to learn something about them, I want to have some kind of control over having these sightings rather than just the Bigfoot having the control and surprising me and making me to where it just kind of, I had lost my number one hunting and fishing area back in 1977, where it was not too far from where I grew up as a kid. So I'd lost that because, when you go through something like that topples the way you world as you know it, it makes a big difference. So anyway, but I'm glad it did now that I look at it in hindsight, because it's something that I've really gotten a kick out of doing. I've got to see some things, like I said, that most people will not recognize. And, I tell everybody, I call them the eighth wonder of the world. You're looking at an 8 foot tall animal that some people get mad when you call them animals, but that we're, as far as that goes, people are animals. So we'll just, for lack of a different term, we'll call them animals. But an 8 foot tall animal that's not supposed to exist, that has the intellect to compete with us on a daily basis. We're almost, as Duke and I say, almost like their entertainment. They can do things to deal with you. They can sneak up on you. They throw rocks at you. They can scream, so then all of a sudden you're kind of at their mercy, so to speak.
Yeah, they definitely screw with us on a regular basis. That's for sure. It seems like they do get rather much enjoyment from doing so.
Well, they do, and I enjoy them doing it too, man, because I've gotten out of where after you've been in an area for a while, it seems like they get used to you. They kind of tolerate some of your tricks too, because me and my son, we would try to, figure, let's see how smart they were. So we'd be going through there and we'd be having a Bigfoot that we were, quote, chasing, unquote, that was paralleling us or something like that. So, okay, on 3, I want you to hide, man. And we'd hide. The thing would just go bananas, man. It'd start knocking on trees, or stuff like that, or growling or huffing. Then all of a sudden we'd appear back up, and then everything just go back to normal, like, aha, and then, but then they pull their little tricks on you as well, so.
Oh, yeah. So you've been doing this for many, many, many years.
Yes.
How many physical sightings have you had?
I tell you what, I never have just really sit down and just put on paper and counted. It's somewhere around 30 right now, because I saw one.
Wow.
I saw one 2 weeks ago, and Christy has seen some of the stuff on my phone. I've sent her a bunch of the pictures that I've gotten, but like I said, actually see them physically. I have about 5 different areas that are within an hour and a half. And man, I'm so lucky because they're all so good. One is Caddo Lake down in Louisiana, and most people have heard of the Caddo creature. I've got a place up there at the foothill of the Ouachita Mountains that I go to that is just wonderful. I've got one on my deer lease, so I've actually got some Bigfoot now on my deer lease, and they show up yearly. Down here around Falk, I've got 5 or 6 places that I can go and look around. So like I said, I'm very fortunate But and that's not bragging and that's not exaggerating. But if you go in there and after you learn what you're looking for, pretty soon, you start, and they get used to you. They do recognize people. Just like animals. Worked at UPS.
I agree with that.
Yes. I worked at UPS 35 years. I had certain dogs that would hear my truck coming from a half a mile. They would meet me a half mile down the road and chase me back just to get their dog visit. So they do recognize people who has that really, really high intellect. So again, like I said, it's a really a thing that you really enjoy. It tests your mind just like you do theirs. And then, like I said, you're getting to see these things. It just the first couple of 9-footers I ever saw just blew my mind. I'm like, well, they don't get to be 9 foot. The first one I saw was 7.5 to 8 feet tall. And like I said, the only thing I could equate him to was Andre the Giant, the wrestler, if y'all have ever watched wrestling. And Andre the Giant was a big man. I was a wrestling fan. I got to see Andre the Giant. He had him shake my hand, and just my hand just disappeared, just like that. It was.
Oh, yeah. If you put your hand across your face, his fingers would reach to touch the back of your head.
Exactly. That was one thing that I had. Then all of a sudden, the first 9-footer that I saw, I'm like, oh, my gosh, they do get to be 9 foot. As we said, those two counties are in Georgia and Arkansas. The first one in Georgia in 1829 was over 13 feet tall. And then the one that they had here in Arkansas, the next one that was seen in 1834, they said it was twice the size of a regular man. So you got to figure anywhere between 11.5 and 13 feet also. So I've had to kind of change the way I was thinking about things. People were exaggerating, and I did something that I was guilty of that other people was guilty of that I kind of look down on, and that's because I haven't seen something means it doesn't exist. And I had to change the way I looked at things, and doing that. And so I did, and I'm glad I did. And so because it's opened up a whole new area for me to look at. I found some. Let me give you an example. 2 weeks ago, I found some 22-inch tracks. That's big for down here.
That is very big.
5 22-inch tracks. I found 3 19-inch tracks. Man, whenever I got out, you see an animal's 9 foot tall, you think, oh man, this is. But when you get out and you see the size of these footprints, and they're like 10.5 and 11 inches wide, plus that, it makes you feel so insignificant that you're like, oh my gosh. The first thing you do is look around, like, is he still around here? Or do I need to start sniffing the air to see if I can smell the smell and get ready to get out of here? So on that right there, it's just the things that you see, that nature is an amazing thing, and just as soon as we say that it's not there, it is there. And so,
and I'm going to go back to the size comparisons. In when somebody sees something that is 9 feet tall, they're not comprehending that this thing is just 9 feet tall. Right. It's also 4.5 feet wide at the shoulders and 3.5 feet wide at the chest.
Exactly.
This is they are absolutely massive. And that is when the brain just goes, that ain't real, click. And the light switch goes off on that subject. And they just turn around and just hightail it out of there. You know what I mean?
Man, I used to be a bodybuilder, and I was very much into that, just like what's left anyway. It all sags this way now, thanks to gravity. But and I've seen some of the biggest human beings you've ever seen. Of course, they were all on steroids, and I was all natural. But I had a 58-inch chest. I had 20.5-inch arms. And then you realize what you see in an animal like this right here. Not only is the 4.5 foot wide and the 3 foot thickness, but they've got a head that's the size of a 5-gallon bucket, actually a little bit bigger. I mean, so they're sitting on these muscles that are like that you can see. So it looks like they have no neck, but you're looking at a head that's that big. You're like, oh
yeah. What are those called? Trapezoids?
Yeah, the trapezius muscles.
Yeah. Yep. Their trapezoids come up so high on their neck because they're so built. That is why it looks like they have no neck. There's a neck under there somewhere.
And it's like patty.
Which is why they're able to break 12-inch diameter trees like toothpicks.
And that's
snap.
Yeah. And just like the Patterson-Gimlin film, when you look and you see how tall that animal wasn't but supposedly, 7 foot 6 inches tall. But then you see one that's that tall, and you're like, oh my gosh, and so it gives your psyche quite a shaking up on that. And then you realize, and this is not an exaggeration, that they can take your head and pop it off there like a Barbie and Ken doll,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. That's not a joke, folks.
And if they wanted to, you'd have bodies all over the national forests.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
it would keep the coroner very busy every day, every week, every month. I mean, one thing I've learned is that if you're not into the topic and you're just walking down these trails, hiking and stuff like that, you're not looking. You're not noticing the sign, the subtle signs. You don't notice the one that is literally 4 feet from you,
right,
in a bush.
That's exactly right. You know, because you're looking at just to see the whole thing rather than just seeing a part of the whole. And the part of the whole just sits there and just sits still while you walk on by, then it goes away. Deer do that. You know, so many of the animals do that. And so, like I said, you're not looking for the right thing or in the right place. And they walk on by and then they've, gone about their business. You didn't ever even realize that you had a Sasquatch, quote, encounter. And, right. So that's really cool too, to see that they have that patience, man. I'm not a patient person. I can't even buy green bananas, man, but they'll sit there and let you walk right by, and then finish the deal. Then they go right back to their daily lives. So it is. It's really a cool thing that I've gotten into. I've gotten my family involved in it, which is good. My wife's a very good researcher. My son is a very good researcher. I've got a network of good friends here. I've got a guy named Stephen Hill, Randy Crawford, Shannon Cruz. I've got some new young men here. One of them named Darren Beard. The other one, let's see, I can't think of his last name. But anyway, Newberg. Can't think of his. I'm having a brain freeze here. I had a concussion years ago, so it's come back. But anyway, had him on my on there, and they're going out with me. They have Bigfoot on their Ryan Newberg. I'm sorry, Ryan. And so Ryan them have Bigfoot on their property. So getting people like that, that you can research with, and it really makes a big difference. I've been and you meet some of the best people in the world here. I think y'all can all. People say, oh well, man, that's what kind of nut are you going to meet? Man, some of the best people in the world. They're just there to enjoy something that occurs naturally, and talk about it. They're not there to rob you when you walk out the door or anything else like that. They're just talk about it and learn more themselves so they can have the sighting. So again, like I said, I've got other people that I research with as well. Deborah Newberg, the two young men's mother, she started to go out with us some, and then my cousins go out with me, and man, they're good researchers as well. They've learned too. And then I've met a new guy here not too long ago here, and he's a preacher here in town. I don't know whether he would want me to mention his name or not. Most preachers don't, but man, hey, if you took an inventory of all of the professions of what all the people do that have actually seen Bigfoot, man, you go everywhere from policemen to preachers to postmen to newspaper carriers, and just going on down the line. So it's
all the way down to presidents. Exactly
right. Down to Teddy Roosevelt there, or the encounter that they had. And then Davy Crockett saw one.
Yeah, Davy Crockett.
One. So when you look at all that right there, you're like, maybe I'm not so far out of the loop after all, and so that makes it really, really cool, because that adds, not that I need it, adds a sense of credibility. People say to me, well, what are you going to do when the Patterson-Gilman film proved fake? Man, that doesn't matter to me. I don't research because of the Patterson-Gilman film. I research because I saw what I saw down there in 1977. And then coincidentally, Patterson 10 years before the Patterson-Gilman, film came out. And so anyway, that's kind of where it went its way, and then I'm going my way. But I really enjoy my research. I do a lot of research with the game camera. You hear one of the things that the biggest misconceptions people have there. Me and my partner Stephen Hill, we go up there and we put the game cameras out. And people say, well, you can't get pictures of Bigfoot on game. Yes, you can. You kind of have to change the way you do things. You're not just going to go up and strap it to a tree and say, okay, Bigfoot, walk by, let's get your photo. It's not going to happen. You better think outside the box. We do some baiting. We actually put the cameras inside the brush piles instead of just strapping them to a tree, something like that. A lot of times we put them on the ground, cover them with leaves so that you can't see it. And then a lot of times they take the time and they cover your cameras back up. Say, okay, big boy, you're going to pull this number. Let's see if you can find this camera. And they'll toss about 40, 50 feet when they get through. So again, and then there's always kinds of ways of hunting. For deer hunting, you've got still hunting. That's people that go chase them down, try to track them down. You've got stand hunting, who put the stand up and sit there. And then you've got the game cams. Most everybody that does it has game cams out. Well, that's what I do is get these pictures, a lot of the pictures with game cameras. And so I said, having seen the number I have, I've also had encounters with several that I didn't see. you know, and that makes it kind of cool too. You've got to kind of be on top of your P's and Q's, and if not, you know, you're gonna get a surprise. So that makes it really it makes me a better outdoorsman all the way around, I think, you know.
I was going to get on the topic of the game cams, and it's rather interesting because a lot of places they'll come up behind the game cam and they'll mess with it, so you never really get nothing, or they'll just stay away from it altogether. You know, there's theories out there, they can't see the IR light. A deer, I don't know how many thousands pictures of deer I have in northern Idaho where the thing is looking right at the camera when it gets triggered. Don't tell me they can't see the IR light. It's a big, bright red light out in the freaking woods.
Well, January 13th, 2017, I had a sighting on Sulphur River. Me and Randy Crawford and my son Reese had gone up there on Sulphur River towards Wright-Patman Dam and Lake, which is actually in Texas. And then the river was pretty high, so we would just kill the motors, kind of use the trolling motor to go down through. And so we had a couple of rocks thrown at us on the way up, but my buddy thought, oh, well, it's just fish, you know. And it was, you know, January, you know, but I thought, man, that's an awful big splash, you know, for a fish. And we were in a good area that I knew of. Well, all of a sudden we come back down. We come to this one place where this point of sand peninsula comes off into the river, and all of a sudden we get a rock thrown at us. I promise you it had to weigh 200-300 pounds. And man, we were like, what is that? You know, so grab the spotlight, the daggum batteries out on the spotlight. Grab the flashlight, the batteries are out on the flashlight. Well, my son had bought me a FLIR for Christmas, and he goes, get the FLIR. I didn't even think about it because I wasn't even used to having the FLIR. I get the FLIR and I put it up there where it is, and all of a sudden, and the infrared hits this animal where he's kind of tucked way back, like what I am, way on back here. Well, then all of a sudden, he just comes up to the edge of the river when we get through there, and he just does like this deal right here. Just as soon as that infrared light hits him, and he kind of bares his teeth, and then he takes off running up the hill. I said, Bigfoot. So anyway, I catch him on the hill. He stops the hill. He turns around again and does a number like that right there. Then my buddy Randy wants it, so I hand it to him, but I had on gloves, and the tip of my glove accidentally hit the off button because I wasn't familiar with it. And I handed him a turned off FLIR camera. So anyway, I wasn't his best friend there for a while, but that's one of those things. But you're right, they do. They can see that infrared. They see that infrared light like that right there, and it makes no difference whatsoever. They're very, very intelligent. They don't know that it's something to take their picture, but they know that it's something that causes light. And when you have a light, that is your best defense against a Bigfoot, is having some kind of light like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, I don't know how many stories I've heard, even on Duke's channel and just across the whole social media platform, of they come right to the edge of the light and they know where that is. It's a very distinct line of how far the light is, and they sit right on the edge of it, and you can just barely maybe see an outline, or you might get a little bit more detail if they lean forward just a little bit. And sometimes they will do that just to say, yeah, you're seeing what you're seeing.
Yep.
You know?
I've got a bunch of pictures like that I get from my game cams like that. They're very just in the background, just enough just to make you want more. Then every now and then, what makes it a fun game, because every now and then they screw up, and I'll put a trick on them. I'll take a camera that doesn't have quite the reach out capacity or the focal capacity, and it has to be a whole lot closer than what it is. And then the thing doesn't go, well, here they come, then all of a sudden it gets their picture like that right there. So that's pretty cool. That's one of the tricks that I use to actually get their pictures. But they will. There's actual documented cases where people have gone out there in their yard, they've installed outside lights there because they start having Bigfoot trouble. They look in the yard out there, then there's a stick or something other like that. Well, they go and they clear up the yard, they throw the stick away, they come back the next day and the stick's in the yard. Well, then one guy was down there, for instance, and as he's out there at nighttime and he's getting ready to go out there and clean up his yard a little bit, he keeps thinking, man, I don't throw that stick away. He walks up there to where the stick is, and the outdoor lights automatically, pop on. So the thing knew it was a line of demarcation. It was a setting for that thing to know I can get this close without these lights actually, coming on. So they do that. They're very, very smart. They have that kind of intelligence. And oh man, I can't tell you the number of times I've thrown light upon them, man. They just take off running, and because being discovered is their worst thing that you can have, because they don't have any natural enemies as such, except for man. you know.
Except for man, that's right. And you know, to continue on the whole conversation of the game cams, I've been in areas to where I've put out game cams, and one game cam I was able to retrieve completely fine. As far as I know, another game cam is still out there because they barricaded the trail I took up to get to that spot where I put the game cam, and it was quite an interesting scenario, and that was when I started thinking, well, they were following me the whole time.
Sure, exactly right. They know who your game cams are.
They knew exactly where I was at any given time, and I had no idea.
I can give you an example of that, just how familiar they are with their territory. We have one down here in Texarkana, and it was a 9-footer. And we had seen the trails over there crossing, but we'd actually never seen this animal. So we go down there on February the 8th on 2016. And so as we're down there, we go to this gas line, and they had just bush hogged this gas line for the spring and everything. So there used to be a bunch of trees, 6 and 7 foot tall right there that were covered in real tall brush. So you couldn't really see down this gas line. Well, now they had it cleared, and you had probably maybe the grass on it was maybe a foot tall, and all the other trees had been bush hogged down. Well, as we come back by this gas line, we look up there, and my son's got his spotlight. He throws up, and goes, "God, I shine." So, man, we stop, and he throws up there, and we thought it might have been a deer, but this thing starts standing up. Again, it's another 9-footer. So he sits there, and whenever he realizes, he get the blinking eyes, and he realizes he's being looked at. Well, here he goes, walking away, or trying to walk away. He comes to one place there in this gas line, and he just bends over like this right here. A couple of seconds, he realizes he's still being lit up. So he gets up there and he leans up again. He walks to another spot, bends down again, realizes he's still being lit up. So this happens, several times here while we're on this gas line. Finally, he walks and he steps underneath the bough of a tree and then turns up, stands and looks towards the truck, blinking at us and everything else like that. But we went by the next day because we wasn't understanding. We thought maybe he was reaching down to eat something or something other like that, But sure enough,
he was trying to be a bush.
Exactly. And what we found there where he had been over was actually a place where there was a stump. There had been a bush there before they actually bush hogged their area. And they were that smart and that familiar with their area. They knew that, hey, I ought to be fine right here, because they do pretend to be a bush. I've had 7 or 8 people told me, man, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this bush that's not there before. All of a sudden the bush stands up, turns around, looks at me, and takes off running. And one girl from Oklahoma actually had one come running towards a truck, and that's whenever she decided right there that was enough bush watching for her. She didn't want to have a garden party. She wasn't going to raise rose bushes. She realized that was enough. So it is trying to be a bush. They're one of the ways of mimicry and hiding things. So very, very intelligent animal.
Oh yeah. I personally have several pictures of when I discovered my group. A friend of mine who might be in the chat, I haven't seen him yet, Parkway, spent a week on one particular video and actually tracked the one that growled at me through the bushes. And at one point, the bushes get thin, and you could see it bundled up. You see its back, and it's trying to be a bush.
Exactly.
It was just like, oh my goodness. He's trying to be a bush, and he thinks we don't see him, but that bush doesn't belong there. There are not black and gray bushes. You know?
As a deer hunter, I can't tell you the number of times I'm sitting there looking at a bush trying to make it into a deer, and all of a sudden the sunlight comes up, man, I'm looking at a bush the whole time. But it does happen in reverse. You're sitting there thinking you're looking at a bush, and all of a sudden this bush stands up and walks away. And it definitely gets your attention. It makes you think, gee, I'm not quite as smart as what I thought I was, So, and we actually have a picture of one that's squatted down like a bush. And then we have a what we call our gifting stump. And the little stump is about 5 to 6 inches tall, maybe 2.5 foot across or something like that. But we got there and we got a little juvenile that's up there, and he's been over the same way like a bush. And we've got Legos and we've got marbles, and we got candy bars on it. And he's sitting the same way, but he's actually redoing these Legos and marbles and stuff. So, and when you see the picture, it just blows your mind, because the resemblance is just uncanny. The other one that we have there, like I said, is just trying to hide. I think just whenever the camera came on, the first time, I don't know if it missed it or something came along, but then he's there, he's squatted down like that. So it's really, really interesting, the ways that they know how to hide the way they know how to mimic the things that are in their area.
Oh, absolutely. It's like just as for comparison, it's like my group. I'm starting to now notice there are different tactics.
Right.
I have one that is a belly crawler. He's the same one that was caught trying to be a bush. He's a belly crawler. So when you're looking up here, he's down here looking at you. You know, and I've got pictures of him laying down in the bush, just on the side, watching me, and you can clearly see his face.
Sure.
I've got another picture of another one, a large one. That first particular one is more of a football player, more slender, but really built, really tall, you know, more muscular. Another one is more of the typical barrel chest, 4 foot wide, 3 foot thick, you know, and he's the one that'll sit there in the bushes with the limbs breaking his, but he can see you.
Yep.
And the other one just kind of will sit back from afar and just watch. I mean, you could just barely see a silhouette, you know, but you see that silhouette will move position as I move position.
Right. Exactly.
It's really interesting to know that, I mean, they all have their preferred tactics. They all have different personalities, and they're all, and one of them is bright red like me.
Yep.
That's the one that'll follow me around everywhere I go. The other two are just jet black.
Right.
I mean, blacker than black. I mean, it was almost like it was. I have hair that I found, and it almost looks so black it's blue.
Right.
You know, and it's really incredible to hear the similarities, but the subtle differences between areas.
Exactly. You know, a lot of the black Bigfoot around here kind of got a brown tint to the very end, to the tips of their hair, or it'll kind of have a red tint to it. Or else we've got some around here that actually kind of a rust color, and then you got just your basic brown. I have a friend named Chester Moore who has seen one that is just totally gray, you know. And so when you realize that, like I said, they're not all the same. They don't all look the same. They don't all act the same. It's not all the heads are round. Not all the heads are cone shaped. So not all the feet are big, long, and flat. You know, some of them ours around here as a rule are boat paddles. But then you get up around the foothills of the Ozarks and stuff like that, and they tend to have more of an apish quality, so to speak. You know, they're drawn around, and you'll have the splayed toe and the things like that. So it's not just people say, well, what do they look like? Well, man, they're just as different as what people are.
And I have to agree with you on that because, like I said, you know, the one I saw who likes to belly crawl, I used to call Devil Boy.
Yeah.
Because he had these very chiseled features. It looked like a cartoon devil character. Bama Bigfoot's actually renamed him Fletch because it just didn't fit.
Yeah.
He is the most well-behaved Bigfoot I have ever encountered, but he is the most intimidating looking.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show, don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
Another one in Fletch has that snout, and I think you have one in your area that's really kind of got a snout.
Yep, sure do.
And he's got that same snout, but yet then again, the one I call big feller or handsome feller, because he's just the epitome of what I would think a Bigfoot would look like, which is what everybody looks like, the whole commercial, you know, view of what it would look like. That's what he looks like. And then I have Mercy, which is a female, and she's very, very tight skinned, very almost Ewok looking.
Yeah.
Fluffy red hair, you know. You know, they're very different. They're very different in every aspect, just like humans.
Well, they are. They have their own personalities. Like you said, they have their own ways of doing things. And you can't just try to put all of them in a stereotype or in a pigeonhole because they're all different. Every time I think I know something about Bigfoot, man, I realize I don't, because they'll do something that's totally outside the box. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm very fortunate that I've got a network of other good Sasquatch hunters that they'll, we try to make it where other people can have sightings, like I said, but we'll, end up bouncing the information off each other and say, oh yeah, man, that happened to me over here, and not all these people just in my area. A lot of them are, countrywide. So you find, oh yeah, well, they do the same thing. I talked to a lady in Alaska one time, and 4,400 miles away, and they were doing the same thing there in Alaska as what, we're having done down here. So it's really, really a very individualistic animal, and each of them just so different.
1 second, Christy, go ahead and take over. I have to use the restroom.
No problem. Yeah, go ahead. What you were saying, you talked to a lady in Alaska?
I talked to a lady in Alaska. I was very excited. We went to Alaska. Bigfoot has been found in every state in the United States except Hawaii. I've been to Hawaii twice, and I actually asked that question. I said, what's the deal with I didn't say Bigfoot, but what of the just the strict amount of wildlife? They said the only wildlife that occurs here naturally, being a volcanic islands, is the fact that what's been brought there from the settlers, who they bring in, and there's a lot of hogs over there in Hawaii right now, and there's a lot of goats, and all the animals that you see in Hawaii have been brought over there. They didn't just occur there. They're not, indigenous to that area. And so that's why we don't have any daggum Sasquatch over there in Hawaii. The only state there is that doesn't have any Sasquatch, because you're not going to capture one to keep him on a boat for that long. He's going to tear that boat up. It's just pieces of driftwood floating out over the ocean. But I went to Alaska, and we were up there at Denali National Forest, which is, if you ever watch some of the shows on TV, Alaska, the last frontier. Well, it really is. And I tried to get in touch with one guy there who was a Sasquatch hunter, but he was out of town by the time that he came back to town. Then we had to leave on emergency. But anyway, I asked one of the ladies one time there. I said she was a Native American or Eskimo or First People, whatever you want to call it. And so we had a nice little talk. And so as I was sitting there talking to her, I said, ma'am, I said, I'd like to ask you a question. She goes, sure. And she was thinking, well, how many brown bears do you see? How many grizzlies? And I said, have you had anybody come back to your station here and report a Bigfoot sighting? And man, it was so crazy, because all of a sudden she stopped what she was doing, and she folded her hands like this right here, and she put them down, and she bowed her head, and her voice got real low, and she goes, my people say I'm not supposed to talk about the hairy man. And I mean, I was just so impressed with the reverence that she gave this animal, and the fact of what's the advice given to her from her elders. And I said, well, ma'am, I said, I'm not going to make fun of you. I said, because I told her where I live, Dad, and I said, I've got them where I live. I said, and I've actually seen them. Well, then she opened up a little bit and started telling me, she said, I remember when I was a little girl, we would hear them screaming up there, the mountains coming down, and all the women would get their children. They would put them in the teepees. They would put them in the huts and stuff like that, because they were rumored to steal women and children.
Yes.
And so to see the look on her face that she's telling me this. And then finally I said, well, when she gets through, I said, I'm going to just ask you the money question. I said, so you're telling me that Bigfoot here in Alaska is not just a wives' tale or a story? And man, she did the same thing. She put her hands together and she bowed her head and she goes, I don't just believe because of what my mother and my grandmother told me. Well, man, that told me everything I need to know right there.
Yeah.
And to see the reverence that she put with it, and speaking of not necessarily fear, but I say reverence of them, what the creatures are. People here talk about, oh, you're so crazy, this is stupid, and make no such thing. No, not up there, not with the indigenous people, because they were a part of their way of life. That's one thing I found about here. The monsters.
It came to a point to where they almost depended on each other for survival.
Oh, sure.
They were trading.
So when I was delivering in Falk, everybody's, I'm like, well, man, why aren't people in Falk talking about it? Well, I said, working off my UPS truck, and I found out because they were seen so often down here around Sulphur River bottoms in Falk, Arkansas. It was a way of life with them. It wasn't anything that, that they took notice of it. The first, everybody thinks, well, Falk monster came out in 1972 with the legend of Boggy Creek. No, the first Falk monster sighting that I found actually was 1908. Well, man, that was the first year that Mother's Day came out. That's when Henry Ford came out with his Model A. 40 years before that, Abraham Lincoln was still alive. 100 years before that, George Washington is still alive. And you realize that thing's been being seen for this long. So it's not something these people, they didn't necessarily take it for granted. There wasn't your 6 o'clock evening news. Most of the news that was shared back during that time was shared around the family supper table. And so by the time Dad got home, and generally you're working in the woods and stuff, and what information there was shared over. So it didn't just become something that was told about and then heard the next day, like it is here with our level of information sharing.
I got to agree with you and stuff, because I've got family in northern Idaho. We go up there quite often. It's actually where I had my first sighting, was on my father-in-law's backyard. And my wife has made it her goal is for me to, everything I wear has something to do with Bigfoot.
Right.
And I've noticed that it's a good icebreaker.
Yes, sir.
And instead of just coming out and saying, hey, you got any Bigfoot stories, it's like, for instance, we were standing in line at a little local grocery store. Cashier's ringing things through, and I'm standing there, and she looks up and she says, I like your shirt. And it's actually this sweatshirt. It's actually the state of Idaho with the Bigfoot. And she says, I like your shirt. And I'm all, yeah, got any stories? And immediately she just clammed up and started ringing things faster. And I started to notice more and more people were like that. It's just a way of life, but they're not going to talk about it.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And with my sighting, I saw eye shine.
Right.
I mean, like, it was like light bulbs that didn't emit light into the surrounding area like a light bulb would. I had night vision on it, so I was able to see a little stick poking out of the tree, and that gave me, okay, the eyes were about right here, which happened to be right at about 8 feet is where its eyes were. So it was probably 8.5 feet tall. So I had a flashlight on it. I had night vision on it. I got the sudden feeling that something's going to go bad if I don't turn this flashlight off and let it go. So I turned the flashlight off without turning off the night vision. As soon as I turned the flashlight off, it was just a streak.
Yep.
It was just a flash. I could see it just turn to its left, big giant step, and it was gone. I heard the dogs at the neighbor's house, probably a quarter mile away, barking. I heard a big branch break, which I found and documented, and then a shotgun blast about a half mile away. So the trail went up to my right and then away from me, and that was where the shotgun blast is, which means these things have been coming up to that person's house for whatever reason. Now, you got to mind, we're an hour away from the Canadian border. We're out in the woods. I have no cell phone service out there. I have to go to the grocery store to use their Wi-Fi to upload videos when I'm out there. That's how far out we are. And the shotgun blast, this guy's been sitting on his porch just waiting for one to go running across. And he took a pot shot at it, or a warning shot, And they know about it, but they're not going to talk about it.
Yep.
So, people are different. I mean, I personally right now, I literally live 4.5 miles from the beach in LA County.
Right.
My area, I can go up to a peak and see downtown LA. And I know for a fact there's 4 Bigfoot there, because I've seen all 4 at one time. 60 feet off trail, just watching people all day long. And it's in an area to where you've got a main fire road, you have another fire road that breaks off and goes down the hill, and you have a single track trail that crisscrosses. So they can see in many different directions at one time. It's very strategic where they place themselves, almost militaristic, which shows a serious intellect to know how to do this.
That tends to be the way that they hunt a lot of their food, is the same way, kind of like military tactics. You know, they'll get up there and they'll hunt in groups, they'll hunt in packs. Me and my son have actually heard what sounded like a deer getting chased and killed one night, and that was all it really could have been. Just, you think, I really felt sorry for the deer, because the deer was wheezing. You could tell he smelled the Bigfoot, couldn't find it, and all of a sudden you hear this giant sound that rocks the ground when it hits the ground there. And then wherever it does, you hear whack, and then you hear the wheeze from the deer. Then you hear one more wheeze, one more whack, and then that's it. Then you hear what we call the pant hooting, you know, that kind of stuff like that. They started making noises like the excitement, or else they were calling the others, hey, it's time to come eat. So on something other like that right there. So they're very militaristic in the way that they hunt their food, also the way they set up first source of protection, you know, for the families and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's been an interesting adventure, and I'm sure you could vouch for it. Yours has been obviously just as interesting. You know,
they always surprise me, but the more I'm learning, it doesn't really surprise me, but it surprised me with the perfection that they pull it off with. Let me say it that way. The fact that they do it, and they do it so well, you know, and it's just it's an amazing thing to understand. On one of my other shows that I have done there, it was about a month ago, when I started at 3 o'clock at night. I start getting dings from my camera that I keep out in the woods all the time. So I look at it, and sure enough, there's a real nice deer. Everything on his head is about 10 inches tall. I'm like, oh man, this is great. Well, then the next thing you know, I get ding, ding, ding. So I'll go over to the camera. When I do, I've got rocks flying by my camera, and the thing is actually catching pictures of the rocks as they go by, you know. And what I'm actually experiencing is I'm right in the middle of a Bigfoot hunt for this deer. As you see, once the deer, you see the first picture of him, he's taking it easy. Next thing you know, you see his rump when he's gone. And then you start getting these rocks like this. You're like, oh my gosh, man. You know, and I think they're throwing rocks at my camera to make the light go out, not to try to, you know, hit it or necessarily anything else, or try to hit the deer, but they're actually sitting there throwing the rocks, and the camera's got them. You know, it's a very, very good, quick photo. It has a very good speed, so it comes by, and you see that, and you're like, oh my gosh, man, how smart are these guys, you know?
Yeah, they are absolutely. I mean, their intellect is, as for out in the wild, it is well beyond a human's intellect.
Well, the good Lord gave them a set of senses to hide and for preservation. Otherwise, we would see them all the time, you know, right. or they would be extinct right now, you know. But then also, he gave them a very intimidating presence that, okay, should I decide I want to shoot at this Bigfoot and I miss, this Bigfoot gets to go hunting, and that's not going to be such a cool game. Even the Native Americans recognize that. You know, they had a lot of times the reports you used to had great dread of these animals. You know, man, that's a different word. Yeah, I'm afraid of it. Yeah, they had a great dread. So that kind of tells you how the way they felt about these things. So
yeah, the word dread for them signifies death.
That's exactly right.
You know, and I definitely have to agree that they are masters of their environment. They adapt to the environment, which means they adjust themselves to the environment, whereas humans adapt the environment to us with concrete and buildings and streetlights and all this stuff. And I'm pretty sure, 100% sure that their eyesight is much better than ours.
Oh, yeah.
Their hearing is much better than ours. Their smell and their taste and their touch are all heightened at least by a magnitude of at least 100.
Sure.
Because I don't know. I've heard so many stories to where somebody's seen this and they've seen it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sniff in the air, just like a dog. So they know when you're out there. They know when you pull up in your car, the engine noise, closing of the door. they hear you, brings them in, and they watch you, and they follow to see what you're doing, where you're going. And then another one comes over, and it's just a rotation.
Yep, exactly.
They have a central point to where they can find us, and then once somebody shows up, that one person that's sitting there gets to follow that person. And another one comes up and waits for the next person to pull up.
Let me answer a question I've got here. Blue Eyed Northern says, are the Sasquatch at Fountain more aggressive? Also, are they uglier, as we have been told? The rumor is about the Sasquatch here in the South that they tend to be more aggressive. And I think that's so because everything that they eat can hurt them as far as that goes. I mean, like, and you've got every kind of a poisonous snake or venomous snake that there is, then you've got wild hogs. Anybody knows anything about hogs? You got panthers, bears, bobcats. Not that they're not the top of the food chain and that they lose too many battles, but still you're going to get wounded in that right there. So I tend to think that they are more aggressive because of that, because the way that they do for their food. Now up in Montana, like where Duke is up there, man, they're dealing with grizzlies and everything else, but the grizzlies have such a healthy respect for them, they don't mess with them. Down here in the South, everything thinks it's bad. You've got a Chihuahua that thinks it rules the neighborhood, But we talk about their senses, just like you said with the Chihuahua. Think about our dogs. What a greater sense of smell that they have. Or your deer, or a turkey, man. If you've ever turkey hunted, a turkey can see you blink your eyes and he's gone. And their senses that they have are so much stronger than that, So that makes you realize just what kind of creature you're dealing with. You're dealing with the apex, or if you believe they're a monkey, then they're an X8, but you're an apex predator that you have out there in the woods, and thank goodness they're not any more aggressive than what they are. I've had 2 of them get after us, and it was pretty scary. And and I go into the woods armed. The reason I go into the woods armed isn't necessarily to kill Bigfoot, but it's going into the woods to protect myself from these other animals, and then also the 2-legged kind of animals that you kind of out there that want to come out there and mess with you because they know you're Bigfoot hunting and they want to try to, cause you some grief or anything else like that. But I do go, like I said, when I go armed for that reason. And I've never pointed a gun at a Bigfoot except one night when it came to charge me and my wife and my son. And I threw the spotlight up, and before it could ever even see the gun, and I threw the spotlight up, and man, he went down on all fours, ran and started running away, then stood up, and then went crashing through the brush like an elephant driving a bulldozer, man. And talk about speed, we couldn't even get the lights on him, and both of us had spotlights. So the way they do things, is just it's a whole lot different than us,
Oh yeah.
I have a question.
Sure, Chrissy.
What is the closest you have been to a Sasquatch?
The closest I have been, is probably this one that I saw 2 weeks ago was about 40 to 45 yards. And the very first one that I had was about 40 to 45 yards. This one that came in on me and my wife and my son, it was probably maybe 30 to 25 yards coming in, but there was a lot of brush in between us as far as that goes. And when the light went up, it went down and went the other way. So anywhere from 30 yards with intent and 40 to 45 yards with nothing in front of you, to where you're getting a good look and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm looking at. In the faces. And the thing is, the thing that was so memorable about my first sighting was the thing started staring at me. Man, almost like I said, I told people it's like he's reading my mail and he doesn't take his eyes off of me the whole time. Then he walks back to the same place where I saw him the first time, reaches up and pulls the limb down, and he's got his eyes on me the whole time. He skins the cat with they leaves. Then he walks back out there again and he's just teetering. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm fixing to die. Then he takes what I thought was going to be a step towards me, and that was going to be it. He just wheels 2 steps. He's into the woods, and third step, you don't hear anything anymore. So,
I have to go along with Christy's comment of how close you think that you've been. One thing I've noticed is you noticed that one, but you didn't notice the one or the other on either side of you that could have been a lot closer.
Exactly. If you're dealing with just one, you're probably in more danger than you are with 3, because one could be a rogue. It could be one that's, been driven out of the family unit, Mother Nature's way to keep animals from inbreeding. So, he's trying to start his own harem, or else he's done had his butt kicked to get run out of the harem so that he would actually leave. So then I said, when you've got one by itself, that tends to be when you're in more danger. Otherwise, if you've got one, you've got 2 or 3 there with you, and then a like we discussed earlier, they know what their role is on how close to let you get and whether to look up the flank, whether to stay on, or so whatever like that. So I think that has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, and to go along with that, you know, I mean, I hear several stories of like, I had one in the sights of my rifle and I didn't pull the trigger. Well, they didn't pull the trigger because the ones on either side of him were projecting something to say, not a good idea.
I'll tell you, when you get around one, when you get around one, your hair on your neck will stand up. Your spine will actually just, you know, you heard the word spine tingle, it actually tingles. I mean, you're like,
oh, it is like it's like all of a sudden it's an ice box going up your spine.
Yeah, it's not the woo crew. It's something that the good Lord has given them in a way to keep them from having to kill you every time it sees you. But like you said, they're sitting there. They can, what a lot of people don't understand, they can do infrasound.
Oh, yeah.
As far as it goes, can make a sound that makes you, it can make you catatonic. And people say, well, man, I was looking at him and all of a sudden he just disappeared. Well, what he did, he probably vibed you with that infrasound, gave him 5 seconds to get away, and then you came back to your senses and he was gone. Therefore, he looked like he was there.
I personally have had memory loss. That section of memory from my head, the trail I took up that got barricaded, was completely wiped from my brain. I couldn't remember it for nothing. I literally had to re-watch my own videos to figure out what I did. And when I went to that spot, I mean, these weren't just small logs. These were 4 foot tall logs. These were massive trees that were just across the trail all the way up. That I have video of me walking up free and clear very easily. And that whole memory loss thing was when I realized there's something more to them.
This infrasound,
definitely something more to them.
It's definitely a tool for them that they get to use, kind of like a lot of people talk about the smell. Well, you know, they don't always smell because there's times they have a friend who was within 3 of them within 30 feet and they didn't stink him out or anything else. But I've been there when all of a sudden they start trying to stink you out, using that as a tool to intimidate you. So it is, that infrasound is really something other that they can do. And I'll give you an example. I had this one I call Brownie. He was coming down off the hill and taking this trail. And so, man, I'm all excited. I go get the card out, the camera there, and then I put it on my game card, and I've got a little thumbnail. I'm like, great, I'm going to put this on the computer and blow it up. I put it on there, and it won't come off the card. The thumbnail won't come off. Well, then, coincidentally, I see this same one in March, about the first week in March this year, 9-footer, 4 feet wide. He walks by. I'm like, oh, great, man, I've got him. I do the same thing, and the picture is actually stuck, burned onto the game card. And I went to Dallas, Texas, and took it to a place there. It's called Ace Data Retrieval, the best in the United States. They said, yeah, we're sure we can get it. And it's very, very intelligent people. And then they called and said, well, you know, good news, bad news. Said you didn't lose your picture off your card, but we can't get it to come up. But so anyway, the way that they can do that infrasound like that, it's just really amazing.
You know, on that note, with your whole SD card and everything not being able to, you know, bring the image up, but you didn't lose the image. A few weeks, maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, I was going into a spot and actually Bama Bigfoot picked us up. It was just a quick flash. Bang! As I'm walking in. The video recorded everything as it normally would. But those 2 videos that I did out in the field were a real pain in the ass to upload. It wouldn't upload. I literally had to take it from my cell phone, download it to my laptop, and then upload it to YouTube through my laptop. Because no matter what I did with those 2 videos, the video literally before that where I parked my truck, uploaded fine. The video I did after those videos saying I can't upload these videos, I don't know what's going on, uploaded fine. It was just those 2 videos with that flash, and I still to this day can't explain it. It's just, but I'm gonna chalk it up to infrasound.
Yeah, I've got 8 to 10 cameras out at one time, all the time. And it's funny because when one of these things comes around, everything you're getting pictures of, deer, turkeys, raccoons, everything else is just as clear as a bell. Like I'm looking at you guys and you guys are looking at me. When Bigfoot comes around, you get a picture, it's fuzzy every single time, almost like that infrasound or something other is causing it to where you don't get a good clear picture. There was a comedian named Mitch Hedberg, and he said, I believe Bigfoot is fuzzy. Well, that was a joke, but it's actually true. There's something that's
actually true
that makes it where you don't get the real good clear pictures most of the time. When you then thank your lucky stars as far as that goes.
It goes right along with the theory that everything vibrates at a certain frequency. Glass, metal, fabric, wood, trees, everything has a frequency. They're able to vibrate at such a high frequency that the camera can't pick it up, and that's why we get these fuzzy pictures.
My research partner Stephen Hill did a show last week, and he was talking about he'd taken his family to Branson, and one of the performers there could actually sing at such a low note that actually you couldn't hear it, but you could feel it vibrating you there. The whole audience like, oh my gosh, And that's a human being. So if one person can do it, imagine what an animal that's been given to as a quote defense mechanism unquote can do with that. So it's something to really consider. And you can, according to Stephen, my partner, he said you can go on YouTube and look this guy up. I can't remember his name, but you can go through there and look him up. And man, well, that's pretty cool. When you realize if it works with people, it's a real thing. And then it can. Our military checked for a long time to see if this infrasound could be used as a defense for the.
Oh yeah, I think they dubbed it the brown sound, right?
Exactly.
Brown sound.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Tigers do it, elephants do it. So why can't
alligators?
Alligators.
Yeah, exactly. Alligators. I've got a lot of gators. And Bigfoot actually eats alligators. I've actually found one there that his skeleton and his scutes that he had eaten the week before when everything was on the dadgum edge of the creek bank. He'd been there for being like 4 years. We see him every time. Then all of a sudden we see a trail going through the creek there, through the grass, and he's gone. I joked to my son, like, Bigfoot done went over and got that alligator. Man, a week later, we find the scutes and we find the skeleton. Then I found one last year, me and Shannon Cruz down here on the banks of Mercer Bayou, world famous Mercer Bayou. And I'm tracking this gator that's coming through. It's real far down. All of a sudden, I pick up the Bigfoot tracks coming out of the woods there. He gets behind this gator. You see the tail drag marks and everything, and all of a sudden, the gator footprints just disappear, and the Bigfoot tracks get to be about 200 pounds, heavier. And it walks back off through the woods, So, I mean, what kind of animal can control an alligator? All they are is just a big wad of muscle. But I know one that can, And,
oh, yeah.
And I here's a
problem for them.
Yeah, and I can do it too with a knife and fork. I love eating alligator, but man,
I've heard stories that just literally putting their hand underneath the freaking belly of a cow, a 700-pound, 800-pound cow, and just walking off with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's a whole
with the whole trapezoid thing, and they're built different. They're built different.
When you've seen the people I have, they're so big from muscles, from steroids and stuff, and then you see a Bigfoot, and Bigfoot just dwarfs one of these things. Your mind goes into retrospect. You're like, oh my gosh, this thing was really bigger than what I thought it was. And maybe I didn't realize it. And the infrasound can also make you where you lose control of your body functions, man.
Yeah.
It'll make you throw up. I went to go get one of my buddy's wives, and she was we were getting by like that in the stink. I went to go get her, and I walked up to her, and when I did, man, all of a sudden, man, tears just started running out of my eyes like I was peeling onions. I wasn't scared. I had a pistol. I'd experienced that before, but wherever she was, it was so strong. I mean, instantly, just running down your face. So this infrasound is a tool that they have, like I said, and it works on different ways there. So very, 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 very real thing, even though some people might not want to believe it.
Oh yeah, me living here in LA, I'm literally a 20-minute drive from Venice Beach.
Yeah.
And there we have what we call Muscle Beach.
Muscle Beach, exactly.
Outdoor gym. It's world renowned. I'm sure you've heard of it, being a bodybuilder.
Beach blanket, the old shows like that, sure have.
I have seen some massive human beings at Muscle Beach. I mean, I kid you not. Their biceps were the size of my chest. It was absolutely not normal. But in comparison to seeing, from what I've seen, like big feller absolutely dwarfs them.
Exactly.
Dwarfs them, like squish you with like an ant, like, you know, with my thumb. You know what I mean? Kind of dwarfs them.
Exactly.
So it's to see them and to see their muscles move in their facial features real time is absolutely incredible.
You know, they're not all 9 foot tall. You know, people think, oh, well, they're 9 foot tall. No, that's not so. You've got some different, I'm sure, dwarfism. We've got one here in Arkansas, the deer lease I was on. It had a deer stand on it called the monkey stand. And there was a dwarf Bigfoot that hung around this stand right here. And everybody on that lease had seen it, but they weren't familiar enough with Bigfoot to know actually what it was, you know, but it was actually a dwarf Bigfoot, and they called it the monkey stand. So they're not all that tall. And plus we got several species. I have found around here that the difference in the species, and some people may want to argue, but there's no sense in it because it's true, difference in the species with the foot and with the body structure and things like that, and with the size. Sometimes 7 foot is tall for a certain Bigfoot, like skunk ape. Skunk ape does not necessarily get, you know, the tall like what the southern Sasquatch does. And so with the difference on that right there, there's a big difference in that, even though there's, quote, of the same, not file or whatever they call it, you know, but some people call them they're not Homo sapiens. I call them Homo sapiens. And that's what they are. They're something that they don't know what they are, you know, but it's unreal, you know, so.
You know, like you say, talking about geographical regions of due to size, I have to agree with that because I've heard that the ones in Alaska are absolutely massive.
That's what this lady,
14 feet tall, 1,500 pounds. I mean, 6 feet wide at the shoulders, just huge. But at the same time, I hear that ones in Florida are like 6 to 7 feet tall, more of a caveman looking, you know, and I think that might have something to do with food sources.
Sure.
Because obviously in Alaska, you're going to have the big caribou, you're going to have the elk, you're going to have everything readily all year round. Whereas here in Southern California, it's going to be seasonal.
That's right.
You know, and then in Florida, well, it's all swamp.
Yep.
You know, so they're limited to smaller game.
That's right.
You know,
and they're all saying you are what you eat. Well, you are when you eat it. Also, like I said, certain times of the year you get certain foods, and so when they're eating, if that's available during a growing time, they're going to really put on a whole lot of size and weight. You know, like they wouldn't otherwise. I learned that from the body and stuff.
Right, just like you see with any animal.
All right, here I'm gonna throw a twisted question at you. Okay.
I'm ready.
We all know from your area from the 70s, that movie, The Legend of Boggy Creek,
right,
is phenomenal.
Yep.
During that time it was made, you know, that's how they portrayed the Sasquatch to be rogue. And, you know, now a lot of people say it's cheesy, but I still love the movie. I still watch it. You know, that's what basically got me hooked.
It's a classic now.
Right. It's a classic. But my twisted question is, okay, that Sasquatch that was taunting the people out there, what do you think was wrong with it? Do you think it was a rogue? Do you think it was something inbred about it? Do you?
I tend to think because that house had been abandoned for a while there, from what I'm hearing, and that whenever they moved in, I think it could have been something that was territorial. I actually think the first one that I saw might have been the same creature because it was only like 5 years difference, but then it was like 3 miles as the crow flies directly across. So I think it was probably, maybe a territorial deal. You know, once they set up, you know, and animals are extremely territorial. Man, you get an animal that will tolerate you all day long, and you get into its territory, and all of a sudden it's gonna, you know. And then too, they had some young ladies there, and I will I will tell everybody, you know, unashamedly, that Bigfoot reacts differently to ladies, just like we men act differently towards you ladies.
Even deer.
Exactly.
Even have, I mean, you get too close to their females, they get mean.
They do get mean,
and they look like something you could just walk up and pet.
And here's
what I mean? But they'll claw your damn eyes out.
And here's another thing that I have a theory of, and listen to the studies, and I've talked to a lot of people who lived in Falcon and stuff like that, and I think there was probably 2 Bigfoot there. You know, they talk about the story at the end whenever they went out and the thing was out there, and they all went out to shoot it, and then they hear the lady scream, and they go back, and then Bobby Ford gets attacked on the way to the house. That big, you know, these other guys are supposedly looking at it and hearing it, and then all of a sudden there's one behind. So I actually think maybe it was 2 Bigfoot, and that could be territory. It could be familial, you know, something from family, you know, something like that. So there's all kinds of good, you know, of good theories on that. And people, you know, they say it's cheesy, but I'm like that, man, that sucker made $20 million. I'll take a slice of that cheese anytime, won't y'all?
I love that. I love that movie. That's my favorite Sasquatch movie. I watched In the Woods today on a show called Tubi. You download it. That was actually a good one too.
And the thing about the legend of Boggy Creek during that time, there wasn't, like I said, I started really researching 5 years after that. There wasn't a whole lot that was known. And for the classic line that I think most people remember from the guy, the narrator, a guy named Vern Stearman, who heard that real croony voice, he goes, "They always travel the creeks." Man, how did
that's my favorite.
How did they know that? Because they do, man. 95% of my sightings have come around some kind of body of water. Yes. How did they know that about that time? You know,
and you know, I mean, even if you look at even more modern cult classics like Harry and the Hendersons, if you go through there and listen to what they're saying, someone in that production crew knew what they were talking about.
They did, for a fact.
Somebody knew exactly what they were talking, not from just one experience out in the woods, but from going out there multiple times, because you're not going to figure this out in one visit.
Especially at the end of the show, when they all coming around from behind trees, they're all standing there. We're all looking at the end of the show, and all of a sudden here they come materializing out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, they were all bent up into tree stumps and all kinds of stuff, and they just stand up exactly what we talked about, trying to be bushes and trying to be tree stumps. That's how they operate. You know, someone knew, you know. And if you look at even these Disney movies like Bigfoot and Yeti or whatever they're called, you know, for the kids, I think what they're doing is trying to desensitize people to the subject so that it's not so much of a shock when, I mean, obviously they're being pressured to come with the truth. They're under the gun on this topic, that is for sure. And they're working it into movies for kids and adults and stuff, you know. They're playing it off just a little bit, but for us that have been out there and have experienced this stuff, there's a lot more truth in these movies than what the normal person realizes.
And if you know anything about Charles B. Pierce, Charles Pierce was not a movie maker. Charles Pierce was a part-time weatherman with Channel 6 out of KTAL TV out of Texarkana and Shreveport. And the money to get the film, he actually had to go around. Nobody wanted to sponsor it. So finally he got the money lent to him from one of the trailer companies around here. And like I said, for what they thought, they go, oh man, like I said, and he makes $21 million. But they didn't know anything about that. It was amazing the things that but what they did know, what Charles B. Pierce did do, was he interviewed a lot of people who'd actually seen the creature. So the things that the tips he was getting was being seen firsthand, you know, so that made it really good when you got people like that right there, just like my friend Keith Crabtree. Keith actually played the creature in the movie. Man, he played it with such skill. Had he not played it that way, you know, it would just be another hokey B movie, and we wouldn't be in here, you know, talking about Bigfoot tonight. But he did, and the way he played it, man, was just I mean, it was, if they would have given Academy Awards for that, then he should have gotten one. So
he should have. He should have. He's a tall dude. He made me look like a flea on his back.
He is a big man, and just
big man.
Yeah, he's like a Bigfoot. He's good natured as he can be, man.
He is. He is.
But without his portrayal, man, we're not sitting here doing this right now. Because other than that, they're like, because that's the most, for most people, the most recognizable Bigfoot movie there is. That, and later on Harry and the Hendersons. But the Legend of Boggy Creek got him started.
Got him started. That's right. And I do have another question.
All right.
Do you remember in a movie where they showed that cat that was like scared to death? Is that real?
They say that's the only part of the movie that wasn't real. Is what I'm hearing. So that's the only part that wasn't real. But I do believe it. I believe the animals can be scared to death like that. I delivered to a lady up around Sims, Texas, and the people across the road from her had put 2 big metal Sasquatches on the edge of their gate. And so I went up playing dumb, and I said, good grief, what is that on the edge of those gates right there? And she goes, oh, that's Sasquatch. And I said, Sasquatch? I said, just playing dumb. Like your shirt, I'm fishing for information. She goes, yeah. She said, and the guy actually was a doctor from New York who'd actually built an observatory up on stilts. I mean, he had $500,000 to $1 million worth of equipment. And I asked her, I said, you mean you got Sasquatch around here? She goes, yeah. She said, I've never seen none. She said, they claimed they saw some stuff over there. But then she said, about a week ago, they had 3 big old dogs, man. I knew where all the big dogs were on my UPS route. And they had 3 big old dogs. And she said, the dogs took off, run across the pasture and down the hill. And coincidentally, down the hill is right on the banks of Sulphur River around Naples, in Texas. And she says, within 3 minutes, here come those dogs running back. And she said, yep, running a race. And she said they didn't stop. I tried to call them. They went into the corner of the carport and they hunkered down and were actually shivering, basically piled up on top of each other. And I said, wow. And it wasn't cold for them to have gotten wet. They were dry. They had gotten down there and actually seen something that, kind of like the cat that actually had scared them to death. And so that's one of those things that's the animals recognize. A lot of the from the Legend of Boggy Creek that was true on there was they tried to get the hunting dogs to go down and track the thing, and they won't do it. And
well, I've got a story to go along with all of that. Christy, I think I showed you Monkey.
Yeah.
Last time after the show.
You did.
Because he was being a pain in the butt, but that dog has never slept with me and my wife in our bed a day in its life. He always slept in his own bed on the floor. Well, we were up in northern Idaho, and the spot that we stay downstairs is half sunk in the ground. So the windows are probably right about ground level, with a deck maybe 6 feet above.
Right.
4 a.m, literally like almost on the dot. I think it was like 4:02. Donk, 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 donk. And the first donk woke me up. And I was loud. And I hear donk, donk, donk. And I'm going, that's glass. That's a big pane of glass flexing. Donk, 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 donk. And by the time I got my glasses on and got 20 feet across the room to my phone and turned on the light, whatever it was gone.
Yep.
But they left a big, huge hand streak across the window as if it tried to open the window.
Right.
Now, this hand streak from pinky to my thumb was literally like 10 inches.
Right.
Okay. Each finger was 3/4 of an inch to an inch wide.
Right.
And that dog, Monkey, insisted, absolutely was not budging from the subject of sleeping right in between me and my wife after that morning. And he did so until we left and got back to our hotel in Klamath Falls, Oregon.
Huh.
After that, he was right back in his own bed on the floor.
Right. It's
so he saw what was knocking on the window
I had one outside my window last year, October the 3rd, up there at Honolulu, Oklahoma. We were gone to that conference, and we had a cabin up there, or a real nice cabin on the side. And then we were up there, and every time we'd walk by, we'd have the cell phone, and we'd flash it. I had 2 patio doors there. I'd flash it by, man, picking a big rock every time. So this time I decided I was going to, like I said, try to see how smart he was. I knew what I was dealing with, because we found 13 rocks. I think 13 rocks one night, 14 the next, or it might have been 14 and 14. I wasn't able to climb up there and get them, but we actually found the rocks that had been thrown on top of this metal building. But anyway, so as I'm sitting there, I decided I'm going to see how smart this Bigfoot is. So I wait till I get to the bathroom, and then I turn on my light on my cell phone and wait in front of the window. It's 20 seconds. Bang, big old rock hits. Well, I go back to my bed. And as soon as I get back to my bed, outside my window, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, it was a syllabic talk. It wasn't gibberish. It was like a syllabic talk. And I'm like, oh crap, man, there wasn't no way in the world I was going to look out that window. And even though I've seen what I've seen before, if I go out there and get eyeball, I'm going to go off stuttering like you see, you know, on some of these cartoons, because I knew what was going on. And the funny thing about it, you know, my buddy Stephen, you know, I'll take that back. I'm not going to call his name. His initials were Stephen Hill. No, just kidding. But he had actually put a candy bar outside my window, and that's how we're attracting a lot of these Bigfoot with candy bars. Well, Stephen had put a candy bar outside my window, and I'm sure that's what had done it, you know. And so then the next day, we found several tracks out in the yard. Like I said, found the 14 rocks in there, and so it's pretty cool. But when it happens like that, that dog knew if he looked out that window where it wasn't going to be something he's ready for. And I knew the same thing, you know, just because dogs don't have the same. And some of them are smarter than us. I'd say that dog right there is pretty sharp. You need to keep him kind of because if I have somebody they send me something here at my house I want to listen to. If it's a Bigfoot, you know, my dogs will just, you know, they'll bristle up. But if it's nothing, man, they just lay there. You can't even get them to wake up from a sleep. But man, if it's a Bigfoot, they'll come up out of there, man, in a heartbeat, you know. So they're my truth, so to speak.
You know, I've got, just like Christy, I've got a little figurine, plastic figurine of Bigfoot, and my other dog, Nugget, not Monkey, I could show him that figurine, and he runs away. And he turns his head and starts whining. Like, no, I'm not going to look at that thing.
Typical avoidance policy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which means to me that he's seen something that he ain't telling me.
A good Lord give him some intimate knowledge that he's got that we're having to learn on our own. So exactly right.
Yep. Both of my dogs have seen him. One tapping on the window. I think Nugget saw one out in the woods. And Nugget won't go. He'll walk around the property in North Idaho, which is 10 acres, surrounded by miles and miles of forestry. He will not go if I start walking into the wood line. he's got the bulldozer brakes on, man. He's got front and back legs pointed forward, going, nope, not happening. And if I pick him up and try to walk him in there, he's whimpering the whole time.
He'll sit there and scratch you to death, man, trying to get away.
Oh yeah. You know, so, you know, I mean, I think his experience was when I was actually out doing some maintenance on the property. Monkey was asleep inside. Nugget had to go to the bathroom, so let him out. He went to the bathroom. I had the tractor going. I had the chainsaw in the bucket, and I was going to go around cleaning up, you know, fallen stuff. And tossed him in the tractor, you know. I'm driving the tractor down and stuff, and I got the music going and everything, you know, like that's in enclosed cab, and I'm cutting up this big stump, you know, 28 inches long, laying on the ground. You could see it from the driveway, so I'd figure I'd get rid of it. So I'm chopping this thing up, and I hear thump, thump right behind me over the chainsaw. That was weird. So in the back of my mind, I'm going, okay, there's one behind me. I continue with what I'm doing. I don't turn. I don't do nothing. I continue cutting it up. I get through one cut. I get through another cut. And I hear thump, thump. All right, now I'm turning around. And I turn around with the chainsaw idling. And I see this thing just turn and gone. Turn and gone. And it was no more than maybe 20 feet from me. It was down a little ravine up on this hill, probably 3 feet taller than what I was standing on. And that was weird. So I looked down at the tractor and I could see my dog at the glass. I mean, you got the big glass doors on the side, you know, this tractor, it's enclosed. And his eyes, I kid you not, I thought I was going to have to pop them back into a skull. They were so big. And I'm going, well, I guess it was what I thought it was. And I continued to, you know, one thing I've realized out there, being interested in the topic, is if I want something to happen, I can't go looking for it. I just got to do what I got to do that day, and they'll come in and watch.
Exactly.
I've got the tractor going and the chainsaw going and all that stuff. They want to know what I'm doing. And they'll come in. I mean, I've seen them out of the corner of my eye. Just blurs of black going through the wood line.
I'm going to correct myself on something. Chris asked me how close I had been. I have one when you said that. It brought to memory one that I've seen there that I was down there, and it was on Halloween Day, 2018. And I was down there looking. There were a lot of new tree structures I had seen. They had just opened up this area. So I'm in there looking at these tree structures, and I've got this recorder type flute, just, whoo, you know, and it blows one stupid note. Well, as I'm going through there, man, all of a sudden I'm starting getting pine cones and I'm getting sticks and stuff thrown at me. I'm hearing steps that I can't find. So, man, I naturally stopped. And usually when you stop on a Bigfoot and you hide, like I said, it'll kind of freak out and it'll give itself away. Well, this one just hid the same way. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a Bigfoot. He's played this game before. So I keep on doing the same thing again. And whenever I do, like I said, I get another stick and another great old big pine cone that comes towards me. Then I stopped and hid, stepped behind a tree. Then I start again. I start hearing the noise, and I'm like, man, if this thing's a Bigfoot, this thing has done this before. So then I hear just a little bit of just a huff or a real heavy breathe. So I'm like, yeah, that's it. And I thought, you might want to go ahead and consider getting out of here since I can't find him. Well, anyway, as I walk away there, I just threw my camera up over my shoulder. I didn't even look, just because I knew if I stopped, he was gonna hide. And I do. And so then I walk on out of the woods, get in my truck. Halloween is my sister's birthday. Came home to where we could celebrate her birthday. And then about 3 days later, I remember, man, I've got a picture I need to look at. I look, and probably 35 to 40 feet sticking out behind this tree is this Bigfoot looking at me like this right here. And you can see the head out there like that. He's got his hand up. So he snuck down there, and that's the closest I've ever been. But like I said, it wasn't a deal of a face-to-face. It was just where the thing was sneaking around. It was better at sneaking than I was. And when I threw the camera up, I had really a wing and a prayer, like, well, maybe I'll get a picture. Little did I think I would, but I did. And so I've got that picture, and it's one of the coolest pictures you've ever seen. You can put it in like a negative where you get the white, where the black is white, and you can actually see that it has a baby with it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's probably why I was getting the rough treatment.
That was the picture you shared on Sawdust Beast.
That's exactly right. That's it. And so
the one that looked like it had ears, but once he enhanced it, you could tell it was just the ears were just a shadowing of the branches behind it.
So that's exactly right. So so having one that close, but man, they can, they're just so good at what they do, and
I'll guarantee you, man. I mean, you're talking about being an accidental Bigfoot researcher.
Right.
I have found my group. I mean, I'm not an accidental Bigfoot researcher. I personally, smartphones got me into the topic, and I did theoretical research for 6 years before I got into the field. I knew what to look for. I knew the sounds. I've heard everything. I've read everything. I wasn't no dummy when I walked out there. And my group, I stumbled upon by accident. I used to ride my mountain bike in this particular area when I was young. I mean, I used to be a semi-pro downhill mountain biker, and I was on my bike 24/7, whether it be around the street or up in the mountains or whatever. I was on my bike, and I got tired of sitting around the house not doing nothing on the weekends. You know what I mean? Jumped in my truck. You know what? I'm going to go walk around up there. Went up to the spot where I used to ride my mountain bikes. Thousands and thousands of hours logged on my mountain bike up there before I had the Bigfoot bug. And I start noticing these trails wandering just off of the trail, 60, 70, 80 feet off of the main fire road trail where everyone was. Right up against the bush line. I mean, hugging it, like every little corner and every little nook. I mean, it was just, that's odd. So I go walking down there, and I start walking this what looks like a game trail to me. And I start noticing every once in a while it'll go bloop, into this bush. And I start looking in this bush, and it's hollowed out. All the top of the branches are broken down. All the ones on the inside were broken off and placed and wedged against the outside of the normal branches that were kind of doing this. So it created almost like an igloo, like a wooden igloo kind of thing. That's odd. And then one day I came across this big 50-gallon barrel that must have been at least 100 years old. 8 feet up in this tree. Not from the trail side, but from the backside. That's odd. Then I the next week I go to the next freeway exit, and I'm walking. I see the same thing. Trail next to the bush line, hollowed out bushes every once in a while where the trail ducks in, comes out. And I'm getting up to the end of the fire road trail, and I'm going, okay, well, I'm coming up on the end. I literally walk around this turn, and I didn't run, but I high stepped it 8 feet to my left because it was on my right. You know what I mean?
From the bottom of his toenails.
Yeah. And I grabbed, because I had a cell phone case on my chest strap. I grabbed my phone up, get my camera going, and something just growled at me, from right here. Not knowing that whatever growled at me from 3 feet to my right, before I high stepped it to my left, it had moved back into the bushes and was standing up and staring at me. And I had done a growl impression of what I heard, which I would say wouldn't be 98% correct of what I heard on my video. And you could see this image in the background duck.
Yeah.
And then slowly come back up. Well, I noticed that in my video, and I had sent it to my friend Brandon, goes by Bronzini Bigfoot. And a couple hours later, he sends me a text message, a picture message of one doing this number in the bushes. And you can clearly see what it is. And I'm all, that's a cool picture. Who's that from? And he's all, your video. And I went, you're joking, right? And he's all, nope, your video. And he gave me the timestamp, and I went in and I looked at it and went, the one to the right of me just growled at me and moved 60 feet back into the bushes. I jumped 8 feet to my left, which would put me about 6 feet away from the one that was standing on my left that didn't make a sound, that was watching all of this unfold. And I'm going, oh my, I sat on that picture for 3 weeks before I decided to put it out. You know? Because you never know how the community's going to take it. And generally, the way they take it is like, oh, it's fake.
It's a blob squatch.
It's a blob, but
big blob. Oh, you see?
I mean, I think Christy's seen it. It's
good.
It is what it is. It's a fucking Bigfoot. Forgive my language, but it's a damn Bigfoot standing in the bushes on my left, watching me get growled at by the one on the right. You know? And that is what led me to my area now.
Darn.
It was all an accident. I've spent thousands of hours up there riding my mountain bike. I never heard nothing. I've seen a mountain lion. I mean, my friend riding our mountain bike got a flat tire. We stopped. There was a big branch coming over the trail. He's fixing his tire, and we hear... we look at each other. What the heck was that? And he takes the light that was on his mountain bike handlebars and shines it up. And there's a mountain lion 30 feet above us on a branch with his legs down, snoring asleep. And I'm going, oh, crap. And, you know, I'm pointing up the trail. No, we got to go, you know. Other than that, I never saw nothing. I never suspected nothing, but they sit there and watch people all day long on these trails, and there's never any issue because no one goes off trail. They all stick to the main fire roads or the main single tracks that just kind of jog off a little bit and jump back on.
Yep.
That's it. I'm the only one that's ever been going off in the damn bushes, tromping around, you know, in the bushes where the rattlesnakes are and the mountain lions and the bobcats. And I scared it. I scared him.
Yep.
He growled at me. He didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. It was all an accident.
Yeah, it's where he's at, man. You can get them. You can put one on them every now and then, you know, and that's exactly what you did there.
Yeah, you know,
man. Just that would be one that when you put out there, it's so hard for people to believe because it sounds illogical. It's not illogical when you've been in the woods looking for Bigfoot. That's something that you would expect them to do, you know.
Well, a hunter, you, as of anybody else who hunts the woods, who's always been in the woods, y'all know what the sounds are out there. From an owl to what a deer grunts like to like we have bear here, but not grizzly. We got black bear. I've never heard black bear in the woods. But you can tell the distinction from
an elk snort, and a turkey, and a deer snuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean.
But like with you, William, have you encountered any other sounds besides the whooping, the
wood knocking?
Well, no, I'm not talking about wood knocking. Wood knocking is not comes from
talking about vocal,
like growls. Yeah, like we had, before you answer that question, we had a one that scarfed at us in Kisatchie National Forest, and that thing, it was 40 yards out on a ridge where we was doing our experiment, and you know, it's like I always say, always expect the unexpected when you walk out in the woods, and you know, Patrick, you know, my group or whatever, he's clacking his sticks and we doing yells and all that. And then all of a sudden, after I did my yell, I'll be
right back.
Go ahead. I did a whoop. I went woo woo like that. And then all of a sudden we heard bah bah bah.
Yeah.
And then it's just a memory that you have of your head that you keep thinking back.
Right.
It's like it plays over in your head, but also the reaction, because, I've had Patrick Vaughn, who was on the team, who's had several encounters. And to hear him say, after we looked at each other, and Scott says, "Did you hear that?" And I'm standing there with my flashlight in my hand going. Yeah. And then Patrick says, "That was a Bigfoot."
Yes.
And it's like time had stopped. And it was just to hear one,
It's like, I like it, Chrissy, to a video loop in your head, because you can go through and replay everything, and you hear everything exactly the same. You remember exactly what things, and it is, and that's the effect that has on you on some of that. I've had Bigfoot whistle at me. I've had Bigfoot whistle. I've had Bigfoot bark, like what you were doing the night that the one got after me and my wife and my son. It ran away, and one running beside over there. Then I've had them do like a noise of a kitten. Now, one thing I think that Bigfoot is probably close to, if it's in the ape family, is an orangutan. And because their hands, we were talking about their hands a while ago, I've got a picture of a 14-inch handprint where it's like this. Like I said, the fingers are huge. It's about 10 inches wide. I've got pictures of one that came up out of the forest up there in Oklahoma in the mountains and put his hand on my windshield and looked in at the food I've got right there. And then the next day, as I'm driving back to, we're going to eat breakfast, all of a sudden this handprint starts appearing on my window right there. It's about the same way. So I've got pictures of that handprint. It's got dermal ridges. Like you say, the fingers are wider than fatter. This one tends to be bent on the hand like that right there. And so, but they also, so actually, and then I've got some there that's seen, they'll actually have what looks like a splay. But the thumb of these things that I have from the one, and then also from the 14-inch strap, is way back here on the wrist. And that's why, you don't see a lot of the thumb up here. It's back on the wrist, like what an orangutan hand is. But they also, if you hear an orangutan, one thing I do, man, I try to watch as many ape shows as I possibly can, and, not the King Kong, but actually the documentaries and stuff. But you can hear when an orangutan gets in trouble, it makes a noise like a small kitten, like that right there. Well, I've had Bigfoot do that. I've actually had them answer that call before.
Really?
Yes. So like a kitten, but you have to put some volume into it. I've had them, I said, do the huff, just like I'll take one thing I'll do, I'll take a tube from a paper towel set. And when I get through with it, keep it, go out into the woods and like that right there. Man, if he's there and he's aggressive, he's gonna answer that. As far as it goes. And then owl calls, my favorite call is the call of a barred owl, and most, I think anybody that's heard me before, and then.
Oh, that was good. Oh my God. That was really good.
I got my little megaphone there, which it really amplifies it. But then also they do an owl will do a one time like that. Exactly. That's going to get the Bigfoot if he's there, and he's going to mock that more than he will. So I've heard those noises right in through there. And like I said, it's pretty cool. You can point to Cracker Barrel, and they have that little type train whistle. And, and you blow on it like that right there. They answer that stuff, And so it's really, really, and then some people call it the bionic bird, where it's with the vibrato and whistle. I've heard that. I've never seen him make it, but like I said, coincidentally, right after that, I'm getting Bigfoot calls and getting Bigfoot activity. So there's a lot of noises that they actually make, and like I said, you just depend on what the Bigfoot, whichever one it is, and I guess maybe whatever kind of mood it's in. So they make more than the one sound as far as it goes. They like to clack rocks together. We'd say about doing trees, but they'll clack rocks together. That's one down there that got after me and my wife and my son. He responds to rock clacking. And then I've heard the old high, and man, that's an awesome talk that just resonates through the woods. So they do. So at least down here, they tend to be more vocal. And then during the summertime, they kind of shut up. You can't hardly get any kind of response. If you get anything at all, it might be a response if something startles it, or else it's going to be like a tree knock. You get the tree knock and they'll tree knock back. But other than that, then like I said, starting right now, the thing that is really cool this month is October, November, and December are just killer months for Bigfoot. They get active. The deer hunters are in the woods. They're wounding the deer. Bigfoot is the daggum janitor of the forest. He goes through, cleaning up all these deer that have been wounded and everything else like that. So they get really, and two, I'm not so sure that they don't breed around that same time. I'm just not sure. But last year I've seen several Bigfoot, and as a rule, people say, well, apes don't have twins. Bigfoot tends to have twins. A lot of people I've talked to that have seen the animals, they actually have little twins. My wife, the one she got the picture of in March, it had twins. Have another buddy that's seen three sets of twins. Me and my son have seen 2 with twins. Stephen Hill and Reese saw 2, or 1 with twins. So it's really, really strange, that they have such a difference in the way that they do some things, in such a likening into other things. People say, well, apes can't see in the dark. Bigfoot can see in the dark. I'll assure you.
Oh yeah.
Like it's freaking daytime, let me tell you.
Exactly. And they say, well, they won't hit the water. Man, Bigfoot will hit the water in a heartbeat.
But they'll hit the water and they'll swim through it, no problem.
They'll swim through it. Most time they tall enough to wade through it. There's actually in one of my magazines, Bassmaster magazine. I've been a bass fisherman for years, tournament bass fisherman. And there was one recounting in there from Chaffalay down there. And
Chaffalay Basin?
Yeah, Chaffalay Basin. They actually saw a Bigfoot crossing one of those finger-type creeks back there in the back. Head going through, and then it hit the woods and took off. And they reported that. Of course, they're not going to say, yeah, it was definitely Bigfoot. It's like, well, maybe it was even possibly Bigfoot. No, when you described it and you've seen it, you know what they're talking about. One they did too. And there was also one that was actually seen up there on Table Rock 2 years ago. Up there during one of the bass tournaments, actually stood up the rocks at the guys back there fishing. Man, after that, he forgot about winning any money. Thought he better get home safe while he still had everything intact. So like I said, they'll hit. They're just a different, kind of creature, but just whatever it takes for them to survive, and they'll do things that we just might not actually think is a normal ape behavior or any kind of behavior, but they'll do this. So so I've been very lucky to experience a lot of that and just to see some of that. So.
Well, I have a recording that I want you to hear real quick. It's a female that we caught that Bigfoot Explorer had his recorder. Yeah. But let's see. You heard her? She goes, ooh, ooh.
They, man, and it's so different than anything you've ever heard before, and it leaves that indelible impression on your mind and in your hearing. Like, it's a whole different note than what we're normally used to hearing.
Exactly.
So it's really a thing that they, and I've heard gibberish. I've heard the gibberish talking before up there, the little, when you have juveniles or whatever, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but they say it's a language of their own. And then, like I said, I've heard the syllabic language, like I heard last year up there at the cabin up there, that was all that kind of junk. So really, really a vocal creature, and they can let you know just with one scream, when it's so loud and they scream and your clothes go vibrate like that, like you're next to somebody at the daggum stoplight and they've got one of them big bass units on their vehicle, boom, boom, boom. Or if you go to a concert and you're standing in front of the PA system, same way, when one thing screams like that right there, that's not something that you ever forget. And that's one of the most indelible things. I had that happen to me about 2 weeks before I actually had my first sighting down there. And you're not thinking Bigfoot, you don't believe in Bigfoot. You're thinking bear or maybe panther or something other like that right there. But you remember the volume. And then when you hear it again, you're like, oh man, golly, This like lungs the size of, some people say basketballs, lungs the size of medicine balls. If you remember the old medicine ball that we have to use in PE, lungs the size of medicine balls. So again, a very, very majestic creature though. They can be, most of the ones I've seen are pretty well groomed. You see some of the hair is falling out, and I've seen some of the hair falling out. Look like they may have a little bit of mange, but as a rule, the ones that you see, they've got a pretty good looking coat on them. So, they're all different, but that doesn't mean anything. But like I said, I've got a lot of these on my game cam. I've got about 30 different pictures of different animals on my phone that have uploaded from the game cameras and stuff like that. And again, getting I got one last night there, man. It's one of the strange one. It looks as much like a gorilla as any kind of Bigfoot I've ever seen. You see the whole head thing. You got the eyes. It's got the ape type nose, and then it's got the big mouth. The mouth is open. It's got a big old mouth full of big old block teeth, you know. And then looks like something to the side, maybe one or two maybe standing there beside it. But I'm getting a lot of pictures right now that said this being the month, what it is where you're getting so lucky that you got so much activity. And then starting in February, late February, March, and April, whenever they start dominoing, or else the daggum deer start having their babies, and they get active again. So if anybody wants to have a sighting, now would be the time. And be sure. And we're very lucky. We've got a couple of websites here you can go to, and if people report their sightings, well, man, you can go and look. Hey, there's one 3 blocks from my house. Maybe I better go check that out. You know, so you can find places like that you can go to. Man, a lot of times, if I don't have access to the property, I'll go park on the side of the road, man. Get out and get, like I said, my little plastic megaphone, woo, and just let it out like that. And man, I mean, yeah, exactly. That's it, Christy. That's it, 100%. And they'll answer that.
You know, I gotta agree with a lot of what you just said about the vibration of getting growled at. When the one I call Fletch now growled at me, I felt it in my stomach. It was like I was at a concert, standing right by the speaker with a lot of bass, and it rattled my insides, and that's when I jumped to the left.
Do your impression of it?
Do what? Do the impression of the? Yeah, I'll try to do it. Or
me?
Yeah, that'd be better.
You.
The growl?
Yeah.
It was very low and very deep. It was kind of like, but it was almost long and drawn out. Like it wanted me to vibrate. It wanted my guts to get rattled. You know what I mean? And I mean, like I said on the video, I would say that was almost a spitting image of what I heard. It was almost perfect because it was literally seconds after I had heard it. But it just, as for making sounds and stuff like that, vocalizations, like yours are very vocal in your area, William, and mine are very quiet because I have a daily traffic of people in my area. So they're just coming up to the bush line, they're just walking or watching. But the last 3 or 4 weeks, I go up to one area and you can hear crunch, 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 crunch.
Potato chip.
Like it's doing something back there behind the bushes. And there was one time where I was having an issue with one of the males peeing on the bags of the goodies that I was giving to all of them, but apparently one of them was getting to the bucket before the other one and taking everything, and he got mad and peed on the bags that she had left behind. I have that bag still, it's full of urine, and it was a big issue. So I decided to try and designate him his own gifting spot. So I went a little bit further to the right. I picked up, this looks like a good spot. I'll hang the bag right here, full of goodies, graham crackers, apples, bananas, whatever. And behind me here, like he was happy about it.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. It sounded like a damn gorilla. I mean, it's very clear. It sounded like a damn gorilla. But yet he didn't touch the bag.
I believe they display emotion like that. I really do. I've seen it, man, just, with the way they've acted with me being out in the woods and stuff. And when somebody else comes into the woods, with you that they don't want there, man, their emotion is totally different. You know?
I'll agree with you on that, man. I had taken actually our third person on this podcast here, Lewis, North County Bigfoot, took the train up from San Diego. I picked him up at the train station. I took him out because we were going to go explore a cave that I had found months before, and everybody advised, don't go to that cave by yourself. Have someone with you. So he volunteered. He took the train up. I picked him up, took him out to my spot, and I didn't do my normal routine. We just kind of skipped by the areas and went right out to the cave and did the cave. And meanwhile, I have bananas and apples and all kinds of goodies in my backpack for them. But we were on a limited time, so I figured, okay, we'll just hit those spots on the way out. But I sent him a picture of him sitting in front of the cave with his tripod and his camera. And I circled a spot. I sent it to him, and he's all, that's a cool picture. He's all, what's the circle about? I sent him the next picture with the same circle.
Yeah.
And you could see a black head and a bright red head sticking up out of the bushes 10 feet to the left of where we broke through the trees, watching us going, what are you doing over there? Our spot's back there. We want our goodies. But let me tell you, dude, the next weekend or 2 weekends after that, the atmosphere in the area was it wasn't so much mad. It was just irritated that I didn't follow the protocol and what I've been doing. I broke away from it, and they didn't like that I got out of the repetition. And
well, I believe they're autistic. I believe they have an autistic gene in there because they want things done a certain way, and they don't want. I've had times where I change up my calling and stuff like that, and they won't answer because you change it. Then you go right back to the certain. I'll make a certain call first, a certain call second, and then by the time I get through the end, then all of a sudden, man, here they go. So it does. They are. It's almost like they have that autistic gene to where they have to have things the certain way. And I know have one there.
Bigfoot OCD.
Exactly, Bigfoot OCD. He had to have the tree structure, and so the wind came one night. The tree was upside down and it was burned. One of the most beautiful structures you've ever seen, and it was laying on top of another log just perfectly. Well, a big storm came that night and kind of tilted it down some, tilted maybe 5 or 6 degrees. I drive by the next day, look and see if it's still there. Well, it's still there. But like I said, it's leaning. Well, then I go back through the next day and come back to the same place, and the structure has been tilted back up perfectly, just upside down, straight up and down again. So they have that OCD, and I don't mean that autism in a negative way. Just they have that OCD gene that that people tend to exhibit like that.
It's like an OCD geniusness.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It's they're absolutely incredible, and when you get down to the little minute details of what they do and stuff and how they like stuff, they're very particular. Very, very particular. This branch has to be just like this. This one has to be just like this. Exactly. And if you move something, they're going to see it and they're going to put it right back to the way they had it because that's the way they want it.
Exactly. I've had them throw daggum white oak acorns at me. I've had them throw rocks at me, like I said, from doing stuff like that where you're on the area, you touch something, all of a sudden, here it goes, and all it is just to say, hey, man, leave that alone, and because they got it the way they want it. They do their own housekeeping,
Right.
And so it's pretty cool when you see all that. And then if you do something that's different like that, or you'll come back the next time and you'll find all your trails covered up with brush because they don't want you in there because you've went in there and messed up what you weren't supposed to, and just leave my
barricaded your trail because you put a camera back there. I mean,
they have several times. So it is. It's really interesting the way that they do that. But they're almost like little spoiled brats, or big spoiled brats, I guess you would say. They have that characteristic, and and it's really funny. But I mean, when you're around one and you see it, man, it's just it's something awesome to behold. Right? Hey, they're close to us, and they have they're different in ways, but man, they have the same tendencies sometimes as what we have. So it's really, really cool. That's one of the things I really enjoy about this. Like I said, it's the thing that you see that, you know, that the things that they're similar than the things that they're different. And you can't predict what it's going to be. You know, I have an 8-foot limb at me, and it comes to the wood just, you know, like a helicopter. And I just had to look up, and thank goodness one of the hook limbs caught it, and it just went to bungeeing on some of these vines. And I was right there about where he went into the woods at, and I already had my phone out. So I just take a picture, man. So I've got a picture of this 8-foot limb bouncing there in front of me like that, because I didn't normally do the things that I didn't do the things that I normally did. You know, he's like, well, right, sucker, you know. So anyway, really, really cool, you know, things. And I'm hoping I got many more years to do this and have some more to tell everybody about.
Oh, yeah.
But mine, I want, you know, like I said, I want to help people. I want for people to have their own sightings. You know, I'm not out to do this. I said for the money. The people are in the front of the money. You know, you look at some of their videos, and all you see is their face. You know, you don't see anything about the woods. They're not teaching you anything. It's all about them and making that $1 million shot. Well, man, the money's really, I don't know that the money's really all there. If you get it and you prove it, yeah, maybe so. But other than that, I've talked to some really, really good Bigfooters. I've talked to some that are very famous nationwide. And I said, man, loan me some money, so I can start doing what you doing, you know, joking. I said, man, we got to make a lot of money before we start, you know, before we got any money, you know. So it's funny. So it's not there. So, but I'd rather share and see people. I've led about 5 or 6 people to where they've had their first sighting. Man, when you see that look on their face, it's pretty doggone cool. You know, it is. You know, they're like, man, I can't believe that these things are. Or you show them the first tree structure, and they're like, man, I've walked by these all my life hunting. Never did pay them any attention. Well, man, maybe you ought to pay them some more attention now. And next thing you know, a couple of months later, they call you, man, you'll never believe it. I was dinner about where I found that, you know, where you showed me that tree structure. And man, I saw a Bigfoot walk by, you know, and you're like, cool. That's what I
told you.
Exactly right. You say, I told you, you know, you so. And that's what's not for the satisfaction of saying I told you so, but the satisfaction of opening their eyes to what they do. And as a rule, a lot of them become researchers in after that. Or they'll say it's something that they keep an eye on. They may not be a full-fledged researcher, but they'll keep an eye on what they're doing. They'll keep tabs on it, and they're the kind of people that, like I said, the one key that you share with me or the one I share with you might be the one that helps you get your next sighting, or maybe what helps me get my next sighting. And that's why I do this, man. I want to share, be able to talk to people, and them talk to me as well. You know,
that's exactly why we do this whole podcast. Is you know, I've seen. There's a few people out there that just, it seems like they're just out there to try and make money on the idea.
That's right.
And that's not what we're about here. Is we don't discredit anybody's stories. We don't discredit anybody's encounters. We're not trying to make money. No one's giving us donations or anything. So if I go out, it's out of my pocket. If Lewis goes out, it's out of his pocket. If Christy goes out, it's out of her pocket.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? We take care of ourselves because we want to share our encounters, our experiences, and what we found in our personal areas with other people, because what we've come to find out is they're very similar across the nation, but in slight little different ways.
Oh, yeah.
They're very individualized.
The one from here and the one from Alaska, 4,400 miles by my GPS from where I was to where my home was, and they're doing the same thing, 4,400 miles away. You know, so that's really cool. You know, and
just as close as me, you know, North County Bigfoot is in San Diego County. I'm in LA County. We're only 80 miles apart.
Right.
You know, 80 something miles apart, but yet his do stuff completely different than what mine do.
That's right.
We're in the same state. We're only 80 miles apart. So that goes to show you that what they do is how they're brought up.
Right.
And how they're brought up is how their parents were brought up, and how their parents were brought up, just like us.
They share commonalities with other Bigfoot, and then they have their own distinct differences. Like I said, man, that's what makes it a cool hop. Because, you know, those distinct differences like that right there, and you're like, oh my gosh, well, you know, this one didn't do this last time. Well, now surprise, this one did. Now you've got this to look back on the next time that happens. And then you've got somebody over here, you know, in Montana or Washington or California say, hey man, this happened to me. What about you? And sure enough, man, yeah, man, that happened to me. And then when you do, like I said, I classify that. I have a little book there called Classic Sasquatch Behavior. And that's one that I'll have right there. Oh, thank you, Blue. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You met Pat. She was at when me and Scott and Patrick.
Okay. Yeah, I had a little glare on there. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just from where I was looking at you. I could just see. Yes, great.
Yeah, she was up there. We were supposed to stay for a while, but of course we was on expedition as well.
Did that. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm sorry, girl. I just couldn't see because the glare that I have here on this deal. I've got this stupid light on above my camera. I'm above my computer up there, and so old age, man, the eyes start giving way. It's funny because one thing that helps you with your sighting, I still have 20/7 vision. I could be an airplane pilot if I just wasn't so daggum old. It could be a jet pilot.
I think I'd fly a plane into a tree, and maybe Sasquatch might land on top of it.
Now you see all these Bigfoot. Well, like I said, number one, I'm looking for a piece of Bigfoot first rather than a full-out Bigfoot out there posing. I find that piece. I'm looking for some place where I might expect him to be hiding, rather than just standing out in the open. I'm also looking for a place what Bigfoot does. Bigfoot, just like deer, they have certain places where they bed. They have certain places where they eat. I'm looking for the trails that go through there and do that stuff like that. So with those kind of things like that right there, it really makes it, see, Crow Creek says try la ole eloya or native drumming. I've actually heard what I thought was drumming. I really have. And then I thought I was going crazy, but, exactly. Yeah. Beating on your chest and stuff like that. And
you know what? Recently, my group has not so much been vocal, but have been tapping.
Yeah.
And it gave me an idea because my son-in-law is a professional drummer.
Yeah.
To get a drumstick from him, because anything you find out in the woods is either going to be soft, limp, or rotted. So you're never gonna. It's a real pain in the butt to find something out there that can hold up to tapping and get a good sound to it. So I got a drumstick, and I'm going to be carrying this with me. So whenever I hear that tapping, I can just grab a branch, right back, and see what happens.
Yeah, like your World Bigfoot says, here's one that says there's an additional variation based on the environment and what they have to do to gather food, and on type and availability that makes regional behavior on those aspects pretty uniform. As a rule, that's true. A lot of them are gatherers. They're opportunists. People say, well, what does Bigfoot eat? Well, man, probably whatever is most available in its right. Area right there. And I have found certain foods that grow in certain areas. Then you go and you don't have this other certain food right there. And so they'll adapt. They have to, or else they're going to hunt. But there's plenty of food for Bigfoot to eat. All these scientists that go, oh, well, we don't know that we can support, we don't have enough food to support a Bigfoot species. Please, man.
Bull dinky.
Oh, golly.
Yeah.
I've had them, everything from, one day me and my son found over 50 turtle shells, about 12 inches like this. Not a one of them was broken, but all the meat had been sucked out. There was about 200 about 200 crawfish shells there. We found buzzards. Like I said, we found alligators. We have found snakes, that they have done that too. And then where one of the little lakes where I look around, where me and Christy met down there, used to be a lot of grass where you would find just big clumps of grass that had been picked up and dumped onto the road. You go down another 50 yards, it'd be a big, and it looks like it had been gone through searching for food. It's not people doing that. It's like this thing works almost like a net, so to speak, and so it finds the food of stuff that it wants out of there, and then when it does, it quits. So you see, it's real stuff like that, like what the point that he just made, that it contributes to those behaviors, and so just like us, man. I've got a little store around here I go to once a day, man. Get them Mountain Dew and a Reese's cup, and you can count on it. They see that truck going, oh, Mountain Dew Reese's cup time. Yep, how'd you know?
Yeah.
Champions as far as that goes. Yeah. But guys, I'm gonna let y'all finish up because y'all know me. I will talk all night long about Bigfoot.
Tell what you said about this weekend coming up for Halloween.
Thank you. I almost forgot that, girl.
Yeah, I want you to do that.
And like I said, my friend Keith Crabtree, what we have coming up is going to be called the Halloween Bash. It's got candy for children. The camping there is free. It's one of the most active places in Arkansas.
Yes.
People from 8 different groups here, Bigfoot groups. Every time they come down there, they've had some kind of sighting. And as well with this, like I said, there's going to be, we'll have a big bonfire. And then I'm going to be doing what's very equivalent of a town hall. And I generally take my since there's not a real electricity in, I'll take my phone at nighttime and then go around and show people the pictures I actually have. They're looking at the face of Bigfoot. They're like, oh my gosh, you know. And so in doing that, then we're also going to have a kind of a benefit. There's a friend of ours that's named Tanya Knight, and Tanya has a picture. And so there's going to be a raffle set for her. And if you want to, it's not necessary that you have to do this or anything, like I said, because the camping is free. But you go there, and if you want to bid on something on the raffle, or if you just want to donate something like that, and that will go towards helping her health. She's one of the kindest, spirited people, very, very smart Bigfoot researcher, man. She's got a heart, you know, that's made of gold, will help you do anything. And even though she's maybe at a less fortunate stage in her life, and we certainly hope not, but as far as for being sick, she'll help you do anything she can if it's a point of exerting herself. She plays the she squatch out there. Yes. Seen on there. She had her own costume made up. Man, she plays it to the T, you know, and little kids just love her. She always has time for little kids to stop and pose, you know, and she'll mess with them. She'll stick her lips out and give them sugars, you know, and the kids just love her. So like I said, this is part of that will be something, if you want to donate, you can donate to that right there. And that's a kind of privilege, because the people like that right there really affect your life in a good way, but it also affects Bigfoot. And like, that's the kind of people we're talking about that we meet right there that are, you know, are the kind of people that you say, oh my gosh, you know. So yeah, just love her to death, man. So like I said, that will, and she's just very, very great. So if y'all get a chance, I say anybody listening, so I don't care, man, if you're from the very corner of the tip top of Maine, or if you're at the tip of Florida. Like I said, the camping is free. It's at Smith Park in Alex Smith Park in Miller County. And like I said, it's a very active area. You're liable to have a sighting, just like I did 2 years ago there on Halloween, when I told you one leading out behind the tree like that. You know, I wasn't expecting that. I was wanting to see but then when they were dead. So if y'all get a chance, man, come. Been a lot of good Bigfoot researchers up there, people with a lot of knowledge. I'm probably the one with the least amount of knowledge, but so I have the most to gain. And we have some really, really good people there. And I've got one man coming. He had a sighting here back in about the end of April. First time he'd ever seen one. It's the kind of guy that all of us can say, hey, it's like I've known that guy all my life after you talk to him. You know, very open, honest, and sharing. His wife is the same way. And then I've met another lady from up there in Louisiana, Lunsford, Louisiana. She's been having recordings and stuff. And so I don't know if she'll get to make it or not. But my partner, Steven, his renter, had one outside his house the other night, 7-foot fence, and the whole head's above the 7-foot fence. Going to have them doing their, you know, telling their stories. And possibly another friend of mine named Stacy Hudson, who y'all seen on Monster Quest, who actually had the Bigfoot walk up and squeeze his arrow tips, cut his fingers and scream, and Stacy screamed back. So it was 6 years before he ever picked up hunting it. So there's going to be some really good stories. These aren't people trying to pull your leg. You know, they're just there to have a good time and share with you so that you can, you know, pick up and maybe apply that to your squatching and have a sighting like that. So that's going to be something that's coming up. Like I said, it's on there'll be some people getting there Thursday night and Friday night and Saturday night. Bring your rod and reels. There's also a lake out there. It's full of crappie, you know, and got some bass and everything, got some brim. And then you're going to be right across the road, like I said, from the world famous Mercer Bayou. Mercer Bayou has got some stories out of there of people seeing that will just flat curl your hair. Even if you're bald headed, man, it'll grow you it'll grow you some hair, and then it'll curl it for you. Because I mean, there's some scary stories, and that dude right there, I mean, hoot owls down there holler all day long. You can go down a stretch and you'll see so many alligators that it's like a Tarzan movie. You know, they're running off the bank and stuff. You got wild hogs and everything. So again, and wasp nest the size of the old big giant album phonograph record. So if y'all can come, man, please do. Just for the fellowship, if nothing else. Like I said, there'll be a food truck there and stuff, but there's always people there willing to share it with you. And doing that, like I said, and then remember Tanya, you know, as far as for what we have, and also in our prayers as well. So anyway, I'm going to let y'all go because of that. Because like I said, I won't shut up. And my wife will tell you that.
My wife will tell your wife the exact same. We get on the topic of it, and it's all over. They may as well just go off and do their own thing, because the conversation, they don't exist at that point. You know what I mean? So
looking at maybe doing a TV show last year, and some of the guys came down and asked her and said, well, man, what's it like having a husband and a son who hunt Bigfoot? She goes, it's terrible. They said, terrible? She goes, yeah. I said, man, a little 10-minute run to the store takes 2 hours, because he's always going to see somebody that he knows. I like the talk. I was raised here in my hometown. People know that I'm truthful about it. Anyway, guys.
Your horn going off.
So. Live, baby. Anyway, I do want to thank y'all for having me on here. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening, and know that what I've told you is true stories. Truth is stranger than fiction. If you just get out there and you'll see, and it can happen. And I really enjoy sharing this with you. I'm always available. Like I said, if you'll friend me on Facebook or just send me a message on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook every day, but whenever I find it, I'll generally try to answer you. I've had a lot of people say, "Hey, man, I'd like to see a picture of this." I contact my buddy and say, "You care if I send this picture?" "No, man, go right ahead." So I'll be glad to send some of the pictures. So again, like I said, it's been a pleasure to get to be with y'all. Go ahead, Christy.
No, I was going to say, no, thank you for being on the show. We appreciate it. It's like, it's people like you and like me and Kevin and Lewis and Duke and everybody who else has had encounters to bring this together to give information to people who want to learn and experience it.
Exactly. Me and Duke are on the show together next week. Now you can imagine what that's going to be. That's going to be, we're going to have me, you, Lou, we're going to get Lewis on here and you and Duke. So yeah, this is going to be like a round table discussion. You hear me? Well, it's going to be as close to that Sasquatch legend meets science as what they put on there.
Oh yeah.
Y'all are some good researchers. Like I said, Duke's reputation is just stellar.
Yes.
He knows more than anybody that I've ever met, and that's honest.
Yes.
And I don't say that because I've been on his show. I'm just telling you the truth. That's one reason I've been on his show the few times is because he does know as much as that, and I learn from him, and I get to learn from you guys. And like I said, that's what it's all about. So again, thank you, man. Have me back sometimes.
Yes,
absolutely.
I'm going to have some more. I'll have some pictures to share and hopefully some more stories to tell you, and it's going to be a good time that I'm certainly looking forward to. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Your nice comments that you've made and for being patient with me and sitting here listening, because I really do. I enjoy doing this, and every opportunity I have, it means something to me. I don't take this lightly. I don't take that you've taken time out of your day to spend time with me. I don't take that lightly, and I really appreciate that.
Well, we loved having you on the channel. It is an absolute pleasure, and like I said, you're becoming a household name.
Sometimes real good, not around.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That means that everyone is behind you. When you become a household name, it has something to say to your credibility.
Well, I appreciate
what I mean? And you don't need to make any, prove to me or anything, your stories are more than credible just by the way you tell them to me. You know what I mean? So
there's so much the same stuff you can tell also.
Right.
True.
You're right. We're on opposite sides of the nation. So
yeah, we are. And like you said, you becoming a household product. I have a William Lunsford here. He is in my house.
Hey, put an orange shirt up there and turn him into.
What'd you call me? My name's William.
Y'all can call me William or Will.
My cousin's name is Daryl.
Indeed.
It's great to finally speak with you.
And you do.
I've heard of your name for, the 14 years I've been into the topic.
And I've got a book coming out. I've just now got it back from the editor. She sent it back to me. So once I get it done, I'll have another book that's going to come out, and it chronicles not only my experiences, but I've gotten to interview up to probably 125 different people about their experiences with Bigfoot. And man, you're going to find some consistencies in there with them, and then you're going to hear some stories, man, that hopefully you won't want to put it down. Not because I wrote it, because the people are so credible with what they've experienced and with this great animal like this. So, like I said, I will try to drop y'all a line and let you know. I'm a terrible procrastinator, so once I get it done, I'll let y'all know, and then we'll go.
Absolutely, we'll put it out there, and
yes, we will.
I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm not. It's not necessarily about money. It's as much as it is about telling people, hey, these things are here. I want you to know that they're
right.
here. and maybe to experience all the things that we've gotten to experience, and when you do that right there, man, and you're dealing, as I said, with the eighth wonder of the world, man, what more can you ask for?
I'm sorry, but I have to put this up here. Hold on. Tony, you are a mess.
My next book,
Crow Creek, I would buy that book all day long.
Well,
I would buy them and resell them to people because
they're great. And that's what I love too. Like I said, other people. So I've got one. My next one's going to be that I actually put the book together of all the pictures that I have here on my cell phone. I've got, like I said, over 30 different creatures with faces. Babies, anywhere from babies to adults to the older ones, and then I've got some as far as the footprints I have, and also the tree structure. So I'm just put them together, and like I said, that's going to be my next and last book. The only reason I'm going to do that one is because I want people to see it, to be able to see that. Oh man, hey, these things are. Some of them do look like people. Some of them do look like little apes. So
you call it your last book. Somehow, I don't think that's going to happen.
I
think there's going to be at least one more after that.
Well, it depends on how everybody receives this, but like I said, I do want everybody to know, regardless, everything I've told you is the truth, and then that's what makes it worthwhile for me to get to share with y'all, and then to believe that what I've told you, and then when you get to doing this, you have your own experiences like that, and you catch me one day on Facebook. Hey, Will, guess what happened to me with the same thing that you talked about? Man, that's going to be worth everything to me right there.
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh yeah.
Well, guys, thank you again, and I'm going to get out of here and let y'all go. So.
All right. Thank you, William, for joining us tonight. It's been an absolute wonderful time and a pleasure to meet you. And
listen, please, thank you so much. Know that I appreciate that so much.
It will be it's going to be an absolute riot next weekend. With you and Duke.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's going to be.
It's gonna be a mess. So make sure you get your tissues and make sure you get your bucket to pee in, because it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be a riot. So
I look forward to it. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, William. You have a good night, man.
All right. Yes. Talk to y'all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Hold on.